trying to invent a personality that he just can't seem to work out how to do.
Hello there in internet land. This is episode 26, the final episode of this season of the F1 Chat. I'm your host, Phil Lamington. Sitting to my left is a man who, do you like baseball?
Do you like baseball, Johnny? I do like baseball, actually.
It's JB, how are you?
Good, man, good. Ready to bring the checkered flag down on the season, man.
Yeah?
Ready to bring it. Drop the flag, we're done.
And to my right... It's Longhorn, how are you?
Everyone's going to be so confused about this intro.
Fensler film G.I. Joe parodies.
Check it out. I'm good. Like Johnny, though. Ready to wave the checkered flag better than Tim Cook, that's for sure. But
with a little bit more
a
enthusiasm.
little bit more enthusiasm.
And he's not Harvey Cook's dad. Woohoo, we fixed that one. Right, so it's the end of season wrap-up, fuck about and all manner of shit. But we're going to start off with some news, because a couple of news items have broken over the last few days.
Yeah.
The first one is Mattia Binotto has resigned from Ferrari.
I'm surprised this happened as quickly as it did. I mean, the rumours about Frederic Vasseur possibly taking over was relatively recent, but the fact that it happened so quickly, I'm actually surprised. Like, the season's been over for what, a week?
Yeah, 2 weeks.
Ferrari weren't waiting. Like, there was no stay of execution.
Well, here's the thing, is that we should have seen the red flag back at Monza, because John Elkann, who is the CEO of Ferrari, he came out and said those cursed words: Mattia Binotto has the backing of the board.
Oh, you know you're in trouble the minute those words get
full
muttered.
support of the board.
Yeah,
Full support of the board.
Every NRL coach's favourite saying.
Full support of getting the fuck out. That's what it is.
Full support of enjoy your extended holiday.
Yeah, look for another job.
I actually heard another rumour.
I think I know about this rumour.
Go ahead.
Okay, so, well, we'll deal with the immediate one first, then we'll get to the rumour.
Yeah.
So, what do you think about Binotto leaving Ferrari?
I think it was... we've talked about it all year. I think it was I don't think he was the right man to be in that position in Ferrari. I think he needs to be in more of a technical role. So I probably would have preferred that than... he's still with Ferrari? He's just stepped down from that role? No, he's completely
left.
gone. Yeah, okay. That's a bit harsh, because I still think he did a lot of good things in terms of getting the car competitive, at the start. The strategy was their big issue this year. So I think maybe a sideways move for him would have been better, but at the end of the day, I still think it's probably the right move for Ferrari, because I think this year he showed he's probably not up to it.
Yeah.
In that position.
Yeah, well, my feelings on it are he never seemed like he was a team principal.
No, that's it. Like, as we said, he seems just more suited for a different role.
Yeah, and apparently there was him and John Elkann have not got along.
He's had trouble with Leclerc and
him
getting
and Charles
along.
were butting heads too, which is not what you want.
Oddly enough, the race where Charles Leclerc, I think it was Brazil, where they were like, Charles Leclerc's had enough of Binotto. Binotto wasn't there. Him and the head strategy guy weren't there.
Yeah, right.
They were back at Ferrari base camp.
No, there was the photo. Where was it? Yeah, what was the race that Binotto was pointing at Charles? Looked like he was giving him a dressing down. Was it Monza?
That was after a bad strategy call.
Because Charles was pissed, and then there's that photo of Binotto pointing at him, like, upping him. That was like...
Hungary.
That was when they put him on the hards, wasn't it? When it was clear that the hards shouldn't have been the go?
Yeah, I think that might have been Hungary.
Yeah.
Yeah, sounds about right.
So, there's been friction there all year. I don't think he's the scapegoat per se. Maybe things did need to change, but, Ferrari came with a good package at the start of the year. Like, a car, had they,
They win
not
the
shot
fight for the
themselves.
first 6 races.
Yeah, had they not shot themselves in the foot so much, I don't think this is as much as
But
of
also,
an issue.
we kept going on all this season from, say, Hungary, how Ferrari haven't upgraded the car. They couldn't. They couldn't afford to upgrade the car because they'd hit the budget cap.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's why they couldn't upgrade the car anymore.
Yeah.
You know, so the
Goes to show how difficult these new budget constraints are on teams when
Yeah.
they've been so used to just being able to push it to the limit, as we like
Push
to
it
say on
to
this
the
podcast. Limit. But and now they're having to get, you know, like you said, to Hungary and going, well, we can't actually afford to do any more upgrades. This is what we've got now.
yeah,
You know,
but
which is good.
But I think Binotto, the race did a video when Binotto decided to leave. And they were saying how the culture at Ferrari is you either win or you get the boot. And they're talking about how I was, you know, during the evil Maurizio Arrivabene days. And I kind of took a little bit of offence by that. Because when Maurizio Arrivabene took over the team, everything was fantastic. Like, everyone, he I mean, you can probably back this up, John, but after, like, Australia, when they won at Australia, and they were trying to do interviews with Maurizio Arrivabene, and he was just grabbing random team members and going, give him a microphone, talk to him.
Yeah.
You know?
He seemed like a fun-loving boss.
And then Sergio Marchionne came along.
Mm.
He was the guy who was the problem.
Yeah.
But John Elkann, it sort of came clear that John Elkann didn't like Binotto because he inherited Binotto from Sergio Marchionne when Sergio Marchionne passed away.
Yeah.
And you know, I don't think Charles Leclerc and Binotto really got along. I think Carlos Sainz might have got along better with him. I think the final straw with John Elkann was the fact that Binotto wouldn't sack the strategy guy.
Yeah, 100%.
And I kind of... It's easy to sit there and point your finger and say, he should have sacked the strategy guy. But Binotto was just like, we've got the team here. We know what the problems are. Let's fix the problems rather than just sack people and find someone else.
Yeah, it's not always the answer just to immediately sack people. Look at Michael Massey, you know, one instance and bang, we got to sack him. And, you know, it doesn't look like it was the right decision in the long run. And I don't think that was probably the decision there. But unfortunately, the strategy team didn't get fixed. So it ended up being like, well, why didn't you sack someone? Because you had all year to fix it, and there was multiple instances where it just kept on getting worse and worse and worse.
Well,
so it was kind of like, why haven't you sacked? Like, if you're not fixing the issues, so someone must be sacked in a sense, you know.
Well, Binotto actually wasn't supposed to be here this year because at the start of the year, the end of last year, Ferrari approached both Andreas Seidel and Christian Horner to take over the team principal role, and they both said no. So Matteo Binotto got a stay of execution. So Ferrari were allegedly looking to get Binotto out the door a lot sooner than they have. That's the rumour I heard anyway, and it seems...
Another thing I heard as well, you might be able to tell me if this is part of it as well, but they, like, Binotto had more of a, you know, a team, like, two driver sort of situation, and I heard that Ferrari's more looking to focus on a number one and a number two driver. Is that also another thing? Like, Binotto didn't want to do that, but that's what Ferrari want to do?
I'm not entirely sure. Like, I haven't heard that, but I know that Binotto streamlined the company, like the team itself, like having an engine department, an aero department, and they all would report to him. Which before it was, they all did their own thing and just put the car together.
Yep.
Yeah, right.
So he fixed up a lot of things, but I just think as a person he wasn't team principal.
Yeah,
it's kind of the best way I can describe it is I'm about to slag off a former employee at work, but the guy I just replaced as production manager, very technically minded, not a great people person.
Yeah,
and the company suffered because he wasn't able to convey to people what needed to be done, and he didn't trust people.
Yeah, and some roles require more man management skills than technical skills. You know,
Yeah,
you
that's
have
right.
different roles for those different attributes. And unfortunately, a team principal role, in my opinion, probably needs to have a bit more of a man management skill
Yeah.
than a technical side. You know.
Yeah.
And you're
look
under
at-
so much pressure from the Italian media too.
Yeah.
Like Ferrari is the most poison chalice position you could possibly be in.
Yeah.
Because if you make one mistake, two mistakes, they're all over you.
Yeah, you make one
And
mistake.
You don't have a stay of execution for very long.
Yeah.
If the team's not performing, like it's the most cutthroat position in Formula One, like bar none.
But the rumours that Frederick Vasseur is going to leave Sauber and take over, I think there's actually a little bit of merit to it because of a rumour that I've heard. I'm pretty sure this is the same rumour that you've heard, JB. Mattia Binotto has already been talking to and apparently has a job with Audi developing their Formula One team.
I like that for Audi and for him.
Yep.
That's probably a better role for him.
So Mattia Binotto is completely out of Ferrari now.
His contract ends at Christmas.
Yeah, sweet. So he can just go into the. And you know what? What a good pickup for Audi.
Yeah.
Straight in.
Which
like-
means that Fred Vasseur will probably be out of a job at Sauber.
Yeah.
So now's the perfect time for him to go, right, I'll go to Ferrari.
Yeah,
Snap it
well,
up. Give it a go.
It's probably going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, you want to move up the grid, and here's
That's
your
sort of a
opportunity.
win-win situation, to be honest. Frederick Vasseur is going to be head of Ferrari, and Mattia Binotto lands on his feet at Audi.
Interesting though, who Sauber's going to get as their team principal for the short term.
But there's also rumours, though, that Binotto's number 2 guy, Laurent Michels, I've probably butchered his last name, so apologies for that. But apparently he's also in the running for the spot.
Okay.
Yeah, I heard strong rumours about that too.
I think Fred Vasseur is going to do it. But every man and their dog that is a internet Ferrari supporter is saying, bring back Jean Todt. He's
Yep.
not doing anything now that he's not in the FIA.
Yeah, but he's getting on a bit.
Yeah.
I mean, he probably wants to step down. That's a highly stressful role.
Yeah.
Imagine being like retirement age and, hey, do you want to go back into the blast furnace? That is Ferrari team principal.
Yeah. Do you want to work, 80 hours, 100 hours a week, and fly around the world, and
While being under constant scrutiny from the Italian media.
Because there are rumours that they're trying to get the band back together of Jean Todt and Ross Brawn.
That ship sailed, man. You can't.
Yeah, I know.
That's like John Farnham going on another going away tour.
Yeah, I know.
Let the ship sail. Go
Or-
away or kiss.
or House having a closing down sale.
Another one.
Closing down for 20 years.
Oh, yeah. Robin's Kitchen.
That's it. Yeah.
Every 2 weeks, it's
Yeah.
another closing down sale.
down.
And then they sell stock. Oh, we're not closing down.
Do you know they actually did finally close down though in Mount Pleasant?
Yeah?
Yeah, they closed down.
It finally
I couldn't believe it.
happened.
I was like walking past because we do work there all the time, and I'm like closing down. I'm making fun of it, and then slowly I noticed the shelves just disappearing, like stock disappearing, and then they're gone now.
Well,
Finally
well,
closed
I'll
down.
be damned. They
Yeah.
weren't lying.
They warned us for 20 years that they would close down, and they finally closed down.
But the one at Canelands is still going.
yeah, it's not. Robin's Kitchen's still good. I think it's just
Yeah.
that store, but
That's where I bought my knives from.
they do
They're
do
great.
good knives. Yeah.
Well, these were 800, and I got them for 300.
Nice.
That was nice.
On a closing down sale, I bet.
It was. It was. They had me fooled. I was
Well,
bamboozled.
I'm getting a good deal.
And I got Mum's new pots and pans from them that she hasn't used yet. I got them like 2 years ago. They were 600. I got them for 150.
And next on the cutlery chat.
Mattia Binotto's Cutlery Channel.
Can he cook?
Fucking raw.
Fucking raw. What are you, an idiot sandwich? That's probably how he felt after a few strategy decisions this year, like an idiot sandwich.
Yeah.
But I think if he goes to Audi, that's going to be a huge pickup for Audi.
Yeah, especially in a technical role. I think it'd be a great get for them. And
Because there was rumours that Audi was actually going to pinch Porsche's prototype from when they were going to join F1 a couple of years ago, pinching their prototype engine and building an engine off that. But I think by having Matteo Binotto there, they can keep that engine with Porsche and develop their own one.
Quick question though, how does that work in terms of you've got Binotto from Ferrari? I know I guess his contract's up, so he should be free to do what he wants, but and you can't help that. But it's going to be interesting because he's gone from helping build Ferrari's car and then goes to basically a competitor. You know how they say like drivers going from team to team, you can't tell secrets, all that. And how does that work for people like in his position in technical roles?
I think Binotto will have a year's gardening leave.
Right, and then after that, he can essentially, like with Audi, he can just go nuts and say, did this in Ferrari.
And don't
The
forget,
thing with Formula One, if you try and implement 2-year-old, design ideas,
Yeah.
Formula One never stands still.
Yeah, exactly right.
yeah, but don't
It's
forget,
moving every year.
don't
so-
forget, Binotto's been with Ferrari since '95.
Yeah,
he
but
started.
I mean,
he started in their engine department.
if Longhorn's point is that he's going to bring technical tips from this year's Ferrari to Audi in 2-3 years, it's pointless.
No. My point was just, that is pointless. But I'm just trying to say, like, wasn't sure what kind of like disclosure agreements they have to have in between. Because I know it was a thing for drivers, but I never, for some reason, never thought of it between technical directors in a sense.
We
you know
got
what I mean?
James Key from Mercedes or Ferrari.
No, James Key came from AlphaTauri.
Yeah.
Well,
Or
he's in the
Rosso.
He was in the Red Bull system though.
Yeah,
Yeah, we got him over from AlphaTauri, and
because he was always going to be in Adrian Newey's shadow if he stayed there.
That's
That's
true.
why it left.
Yeah.
I miss when Adrian Newey made McLarens. That was a good couple of years.
I miss when Jean Todt and Ross Brawn made Ferraris.
Such is life.
Yeah.
Anyway, what's next?
Right. And the next news item is that China has been cancelled next year due to COVID.
Juju COVID.
Due to COVID. What?
I don't believe it's COVID.
Nah, no way it is.
I think it's a nice, convenient
COVID
answer.
doesn't even exist anymore.
I don't know. We're getting another wave of COVID.
Oh, that's what they keep saying.
Oh, God.
It's
Have-
always
have-
it's
have you-
always
have you
right
seen
before
gimmick
Christmas.
it?
Have you been hanging around the singer in the band I'm in?
No, but
And his damn conspiracy theories about COVID. Oh, yeah. The worst thing ever invented by mankind was the jab. Fuck off.
no, I'm not a full conspiracy, but at the same time, like, it's not. COVID was never
Apparently
what they
China's
originally
in
said.
proper
so-
lockdown though.
Okay,
Apparently they are in proper lockdown.
I
Well,
don't think that's got anything to do with COVID. That'd have to do with some kind of military thing.
Yeah,
going on
I
with
think-
Hong
I
Kong.
They're
think-
doing because they're looking at Taiwan.
Yeah, because they've taken Hong Kong, and now the next step is Taiwan. So
Yeah.
it'll be something to do with a military, this, that, or the other. It's got nothing to do with COVID.
Or Russia.
Or Russia.
Yeah,
Russia can't
military. Yeah,
Russia can't even do anything with the Ukraine. Like, what are they?
Yeah.
They were a scary superpower in like hypothesis, but in practice, they're
the scary thing is they could press a button and blow things to smithereens. That's the scary thing.
anyone
But if you-
could do
or-
that.
Yeah,
When it comes to Ukraine versus the Russia, all I can think of is have you guys seen the first Iron Man movie?
yeah.
Hmm.
Where he builds the suit out of rubble in the cave.
Yeah. Tony Stark built this in a cave with a box of scraps. That's Ukraine versus Russia for me.
Yeah,
Tony Stark built this in a cave with a box of scraps.
pretty much.
Yeah.
You know, but that's as political commentary. We're doing F1 commentary. Right.
We are
So-
down the garden path already, boys.
Yeah, we have.
Yeah, we're
My
yeah.
God.
It's end of season. We can get away with it.
Yeah, it is.
Right. So, what are your thoughts on now that the news segment's over for the year?
Oh, yeah. Well, look, I'm not going to miss China.
Yeah, neither am
No.
I.
Have they
I
talked
can-
about what they're replacing it with?
Oh, look.
Yes. Portimao.
I did see that actually. Yes.
There's a big rumor that it's going to be Portimao, which is good because I like Portimao.
Yeah, I like Portimao.
I would have liked if it was Sepang.
They need to seriously discuss going back to Malaysia.
That's right.
Like the fact that that's not a serious discussion.
Yeah, it doesn't
it,
even
it
get
never seems to be,
rumoured.
because
Should
the
be.
other rumor was Mugello. They were going to go back to Mugello, which would be cool as, but they think it's going to be Portimao, which is good. But yeah, Sepang's never in the equation anymore.
Malaysia would have been a good get too because it's in that Asia-specific region. You know what I
Because
mean?
China
Like,
was right after us.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So like Malaysia would have been a good.
It's true.
Drop over
Malaysia,
from Australia, you
used
know?
to start the year, and then Malaysia was the next race.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it was China, and then on from there.
Whereas if there was Portobello, that's not very eco-friendly as I like to call it with their unless what was after China? Were they back in Europe?
What was after
Or is it-
China?
Canada.
Yeah, China was like, no, it was like Catalonia or some shit.
Yeah, right, okay.
Yeah.
Or Canada. No, Catalonia.
No, Catalonia is Spain.
Yeah.
Right, so that's the news. That's the end of the news for the year.
Yeah, it was a very
right.
short news segment
Yeah, I know.
that we extended with Cutlery Talk.
And
Political,
rate-
military,
yeah.
COVID, conspiracy.
Yeah, the news was boring, so here's some cutlery and some
Here's our opinions
political
on
jargon.
COVID doesn't exist.
Yeah, COVID's fake, and you can get some good shit at closing down sales.
Right, so 2022 saw the introduction of the new ground effect cars. I honestly think it was a success.
Yep. I
Yep.
agree.
Definitely promoted overtaking, like they said.
The only drawback about it was you can't race in the wet.
Yes.
If there's like a speckle of rain, red flag the race because all the wet tyres can't handle it.
Yeah, they are trying to come up with a concept. Longhorn was onto something because apparently F1 are looking at wheel covers over the rear wheels
To help with the spray.
to help limit the spray.
And it's going to be a control item, so they're all getting the same thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not going to be aerodynamic. It's going to be aerodynamic, but it's not going to be. You can't make it any more aerodynamic than it will be.
It's just going to be, this is what we need to put on in the wet to help
to
the spray. You all got the same
rooster
thing.
tails.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I
As it
don't know.
should
We'll
be.
see how that goes.
It's interesting. I'm glad they're looking at that because, there's one thing you can't eliminate, which is the wet, but we want to still see wet racing happen, and be
Yeah,
interesting. So,
Absolutely.
I know why you're really cool that they're looking at it. Because you thought of it first.
oh, yeah.
You get credential. There's a few things they're looking at. They're looking at bringing in DRS after one lap next year.
Another thing.
Oh, well.
Yo,
there we go.
boy, Longhorn said, pew, pew,
We just make you.
shooting from the hip.
We just got to make you like race director because they're just listening to you.
He needs a rat in a bucket.
Yeah,
We got a
need to-
final.
I'll have to check the Spotify stats. There might be like one guy from like over in Europe just listens to the F1 chat. It's like, this guy's got really good ideas.
Stefano Domenicali is just like
One of our 6 listeners.
Stefano Domenicali is just like these guys are onto something.
I really like that Longhorn fella.
Make him race director.
I hate Latifi too.
He's got a rat, a bucket, he's got a cutter, and he owns a boatyard. He's in.
Imagine that, Stefano Domenicali in his big office in his white suit, just listening to us. It's like these guys, they're so good. I love the fresh ideas of these gentlemen. These
Why didn't we
Australians.
think of
Three
that?
Aussie Bogans.
I'm not a bogan. What the hell are you
Oh,
on
just
about?
because we're from Australia. That's what he would
Oh.
think. 'cause
They
he's-
always think we're bogans.
Yeah.
I mean, look
I-
at Valtteri Bottas.
Exactly.
It is VB singlet.
And we all love
and his
it.
mullet and his mustache.
I just realised he's drinking VB because that's literally his initials.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Didn't even click to that either. I just thought he was being an Aussie.
I swear to God, there must have been at least 10 guys at the kickboxing on Saturday night that all looked the same as Valtteri Bottas.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
But they've only got about a quarter of the talent.
Jeez, that's probably being a bit
Yeah, that's
nice
being
to
a bit
him.
generous.
Yeah.
Some of the comments, though, like, we should make him an honorary Australian.
He should be.
It's only a matter of time before he buys a Holden.
You better. But
Get him a Commodore. He's got to have a Commodore.
no, I agree. I agree that the 2022 cars were a success.
Yes.
They followed closer. There was much better racing, especially I think Jeddah was the first example of it, where Max and Lewis were sort of struggling to follow each other in 2021. Max and Charles Leclerc were like overtaking each other lap after lap. I think there was some good. And once the teams figured out porpoising, I think the cars were a lot better. And I'm keen to see all the cars next year because I think they're just going to be an improvement.
Yeah,
All
I
of
think it's
them.
going to be another step in the
It's
right
gonna-
direction,
another
especially if
step
they do as we were just saying with the DRS a lap earlier. I'm looking forward to that too, to see how that might change the start of races.
Yeah.
With them all getting it, quicker than that too, because as we've said, by the second lap, they've all got that gap,
Yeah.
and it's just doesn't exist. So it's like it'd be interesting to see, and the same with because the tyre warmers are gone next year. Is that right?
Yeah.
I'm also I'm looking forward to what these small little changes. Well, they're not small changes. These changes are going to create to the racing because I think it's all going to be a positive
Yeah.
effect.
Oh, it's going to come back more to the driver
Yes, which is what we want.
instead of the machinery. I mean, the machinery is going to be the pinnacle of motorsport, like it always
It's
is.
going to be the speed and the pace, but
But
yeah, there's going to be
it
certain
will-
elements to your driving that's going to help you.
Yeah, it's going to be how do you manage stone cold tyres?
Yep.
Not 100-degree
What?
blanket warmed. Yeah, I was waiting for that.
What?
Not blanket warm tyres. You're out there on cold tyres. It's going to take more than a lap to warm up, and then you got DRS. You're going to be on cold tyres, and you're going to be brave enough to use DRS after a lap.
Yep.
Like it's going to be proper car control and bravery and all of the above.
The good drivers are going to shine through, and it's going to be interesting to see the good drivers in the lesser performing tier cars be able to make up a bit more ground with their skill rather than it all coming down to the machinery.
Absolutely.
No, that's what I'm looking forward to.
I think the two blemishes on this season. I mean, you could sit there and say Max Verstappen driving off with the championship was a blemish. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think the two biggest blemishes were this year's race directors really weren't up to snuff.
Not
Yeah.
after the controversy of last year.
And the other thing is, pardon me, I think at least one of the new tracks that was added this year really just did not deliver.
Not at all.
Yeah, Miami was trash, and I'm not looking forward to Las Vegas. I'm going to
No.
be totally honest.
I mean, I'll be honest. These races they're bringing in, they just feel like cash grabs more
Yeah.
than
Vegas is a
actual
cash
care.
grab.
Yeah, they,
$3,000
well, so was
for a
Miami.
trackside ticket.
That's what they wanted at Miami, and I'm
Yeah.
like, it was crap racing. It was,
They sold it out. I mean, kudos to them.
of course they did, and
But the track looks... I've seen an onboard of the Vegas track, and it's not good.
no,
It's
no,
not good at all.
I'm not looking forward to it. Like the only cool thing about it is going to be the sides of
The
the track,
visual.
the visual, But it's like,
Formula One cars going down the strip. Yes, sweet.
yeah,
But
they'll be interesting for a few laps until we're like, okay, now the racing's boring. What
Yeah.
now? Like
now everyone's spread out.
can't overtake.
And I
Yeah.
was looking, apparently the Jeddah circuit has been modified for next year.
Yes.
I like the
Which
Jeddah
Yeah.
sucks because I
And-
really like the Jeddah circuit.
and,
They're trying
uh,
to slow it down.
Yeah, but guess who they got to modify it?
Oh gosh, Herman
Tilk.
Tilke.
Yeah, look, I've seen a few of the modifications, and they're not substantial modifications. What they've done is added rumble strips, because all the rumble strips on the Jeddah track is paint. It's not actually a rumble strip.
Yeah.
It's just painted tarmac. So they've got rumble strips. They're trying to slow the cars down because they're worried of someone spinning in the middle of the track, and all those corners are blind. And we're getting an Antoine Hubert where he gets T-boned in the side, and these guys are doing 250 k's an hour.
I mean, look at Mick Schumacher's crash.
Yeah, and that he didn't even hit anything. He just hit the wall.
Yeah.
All he did was hit the wall, and he split the Haas in half.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
also split his contract in half.
Yeah, well,
that was the end for him, wasn't it? The
so
beginning of the
and
end.
yeah, and having that in the middle of a race. So I mean, they're superficial changes. The track's still going to be awesome as hell.
Yeah, I do like that track,
I do really like Jeddah as a track.
and I like the difficulty of the track.
Yeah,
As much as I do want it to be safer, and I don't want people dying, part of me still I still want tough tracks for these drivers to navigate. That
it'll
have
still be a
you know,
tough track. In
Yeah.
fact, it'll probably be tougher because now you have to navigate proper rumble strips, and
True.
you've still got to get lap times out of a track that's been deliberately slowed down a little.
Yeah.
You just don't want it to turn into the old Singapore sling.
Yeah,
Remember that corner? Because
That
that
was-
was fucking dangerous.
That is like the worst corner probably in F1 history.
Yeah.
The shittiest chicane, except the only other chicane that comes close to that in terms of shitness is that one in Miami. That
Yeah, but
uphill
that's the whole
chicane.
track is shit.
Yeah, that uphill chicane is just so awkward and crap. Apparently they are getting rid of that.
Yeah.
Apparently they're changing the Miami track a bit too, and that chicane is gone.
They need to just get rid of the whole Miami track, not just the chicane.
Yeah, but then we'll get rid of Willie T. Ribs.
That's all right. He can be at Vegas. We got enough
True.
races.
True.
That's actually one thing I'm like. Yeah, I'm just not looking for. I don't think we should have too many races in one region like that in one country.
Yeah.
I think it should be capped at two. Two at
I mean,
the most.
Formula
you know?
One's from Britain, and we only get one race in Britain.
Like it's a world sport. And we want. I know you want to grow it in America because America's the big ticket right now in F1.
Yeah,
But what about other places like
Kyalami.
Malaysia, as we're saying? Yeah, South Africa.
Well, how about this?
India.
Why don't they purpose build a track in Alaska?
Why are they going to race in the snow?
Well, no, it does. It actually does get warm in that part of the world at some point.
Look, mate, they can't race in the rain as is. What the hell are they going to do in the snow?
On ice skates.
It'll be interesting at least.
Spike, thinking about those spike tires, those ice tires with chains.
Yeah.
The two compounds is like the chains and the spikes.
Yeah.
It's just like, we don't have hard to stop because it's snowing.
Well, you know what?
You go chains or spikes.
Bring back the Argentinian F1.
Yeah. 100%.
South America, but then
Go
it's
back
another South American race. You've already got Brazil and, I guess, does Mexico count?
Mexico
Yeah.
sort of counts as Central America, North America.
And
I'd say.
Portimao, if you're going back to Portugal.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Which
Portugal's in Europe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not in South America.
It's across the ocean from South
Yeah,
America.
it's near Spain.
Geography 101. I've been watching enough of the World Cup to sort of know this, but apparently not.
I know this country because we beat them in the World Cup.
We didn't. We would have had no chance.
I would just like Formula One, instead of having 3 in America, have 2. I'm fine with you having Coda and your one bloody cash grab fancy ass race, but
Canada.
give Africa a race.
Bring back Kyalami.
Yeah, you know.
But everyone from America will sit there and go, well, we deserve 3 races. I mean, look at Italy. They've got 2 races.
Yeah.
Because they've got Imola and Monza.
Yeah, but they're historic tracks.
Yeah. And they're good tracks.
Yeah.
Unlike
Yeah.
your shit tracks.
Go to New Zealand.
Pukekohe.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I would-
track
I would-
limits are plenty.
I would just like it to be capped, because all I see is when they go to places like that, they just
Well,
get these gimmick races.
Actually, here's another island they can go to and have a race. Tasmania.
Hell yeah.
They got Simmons playing Dressway down there.
Yeah. Right, so that's our thoughts on season 2022.
Overall, good.
It
Going
was-
in the
yeah.
right direction.
Yeah, going in the right direction. It's just a shame that the season finale wasn't as action-packed as last year's one.
You can't top last year's one.
Yeah, you won't.
You
I-
can't top last year's one.
I-
You can't top last year.
No, you can't.
No.
Last year was a great season.
Last year was the best season of Formula One I've ever seen, ever.
Yeah,
Ever.
it actually was.
Like, ever.
I was thinking that today when I was trying to think back, as part of our later on we'll talk about thinking about this year. I was like, gosh, there's so much that was just forgettable because Verstappen just ran away with it. Like, as you said before, one of the kind of blemishes was he ran away with it. As impressive as it was and historic as it is and amazing he did that, outside of Max Verstappen, Formula One was kind of a bit this year. But is that maybe because of how good last year was? We thinking that? Like recency
Yeah.
bias? Probably.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we went into this thinking this is going to be better than last year.
Yeah. Or as good,
I don't know. I sort of saw last year for what it was. I was like, we're not going to get...
No, I didn't think we'd get that, but I thought we'd at least have a more competitive season like we've seen at the start. I thought
it was
at
gonna
least
be
2
closer.
competitors would go further along. And
You thought
another
it would
blemish.
sustain it.
Yeah, for long enough that we'd get to Mexico and there'd still be some interest.
Yeah, you wouldn't think that Max Verstappen would have wrapped up the title with like 4 races to go.
Oh, man, and to be honest, he had it before that. It was only a matter of time. There was about 2 or 3 races where he just got held
Yeah.
up, and it was
Yeah.
like, oh, I think at Singapore he could have won it. I think.
Yeah,
And then-
he had the chance to win it. in
Yeah,
Singapore.
and he had the bad race, and it was like it was always the inevitable for so long. And
Yeah.
maybe if you want to add another blemish of the year, I think for me it's the amount of races they have. It's such a long season, and if you don't have interesting races to cap when Max Verstappen finishes it with 4 races to go,
Yeah.
it feels very, very long and drawn out, and I do worry for that a bit. Sometimes I feel like less can be more. Like, you don't want to saturate it with too much
Yeah.
bad racing,
That's true.
and so I'm.
Well, I think Liberty Media are probably taking the same approach. I mean, I think the championship will naturally be tighter the longer these regulations go
Yeah,
into 2026. By the time we get to 2026 and the engine regulation changes or whatever it is, I think the championship will be a lot tighter.
yeah, it might come down about like 21. That was
Yeah.
the end of a regulation era there, and look how tight it got. So
Yeah.
I'm hoping this one will get tighter quicker, which I think it will. And with Red Bull having minimal wind tunnel time and the cost cap and everything, I'm thinking it will be tighter quicker and for the rest of these regs. Like, I don't think next year Max Verstappen's going to run away with it again.
No.
I still think he's heavy favourite, but But yeah, all in well, it was a good season. Only some minor blemishes, I think, and
Yeah.
next year Phil will be better.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. So now we're going to talk about the teams.
Right.
Our little team thing. And just to muck everyone up, I'm going to start at Williams.
Yay.
Hey. Now, we were grading them, weren't we?
Yes.
Yes,
From
from like a school report card.
Yeah, from an A to an F.
Yeah.
So, Williams, I think despite it didn't show it on the scoreboard, I think they did better than last year.
Yes.
I think the team is making steps. As we've said many times this year, though, Williams needs to get out of the Mercedes shadow.
I feel like Williams is sort of, they're making steps, but then sometimes I feel like they make one step forward, then they make a step to the side. They're not continually moving up steps. They're sort of like, they make a step and you're like, yes, here we go. And then they make another decision or they do something else and you're like, okay, we're
Or
sort
they
of just going to the side. We're not continuing going up, you know.
They make a step forward, and then there's a puddle there, and they just keep stepping in the puddle.
Yeah. They haven't worked out to take that next step. So,
Yeah. I feel like they, but you're right. They were better than the results doesn't show it, but they were like the amount of times they were just missing out on points. The amount of like 12th, 13th, 14th place finishes throughout the year. You know, you don't get points unless you're in the top 10. But how many times did Alex Albon finish 13th, 12th?
Yeah.
all the time.
Yeah.
Like, he was so
he was-
close to the points.
Yeah, he was kissing the points.
Yeah.
Our biggest letdown was the second driver this year, 100%. We
Yeah.
didn't have
Oh.
a strong second driver to get that extra tenth every now
Well,
and then, you know,
I can see Williams having two problems this year.
going into 23, you say?
No. Just
Oh.
in 2022.
Yeah, okay, yep.
Gotifi,
Yep.
he just genuinely sucks.
He just, yep.
And the second one actually is going into 2023 is that they didn't sign Nick DeVries.
Yeah.
Again, they went with a weak second driver, in my opinion. Like,
Yeah,
they've gone
'cause-
with a rookie. Like,
Yeah,
it's-
because they've got
yeah.
Logan Sargent.
Yeah. And I honestly, that's why I say, you know, I feel like they make a step forward because they signed Albon, you know, and he's turned out to be excellent. They've signed him for multiple years, and they got Josh Capito. It's like all these things, like, yeah, we're going forward. Okay, we're going to move on for Latifi, and we're going to get in Logan Sargent. And it's like, oh, but you had a chance to get De Vries, who come in and did what, like, got points, and it was like there was your extra step forward, you know, on paper to look like, who knows? Logan Sargent might come in next year and bloody be the best thing since sliced bread. Who knows? Just doesn't look like that on paper. But Nick De Vries did look
Yeah.
good, and they could have solidified that. And I would be looking at next year going, hell yeah, we're making the steps up. We've still got to get the engine supply, but we're getting other decisions right with our driver pairing. And I feel like our biggest weak point was the driver pairing this year, and I don't feel we've got it right next year. So for me, that's why I say I just feel like Williams sort of takes a step, and as you just said, steps in the puddle a bit, and you know, tinkers around.
I think that Williams had an opportunity to sign Nick DeVries, didn't take it. They could have had Mick Schumacher, didn't take it. I think, though, their biggest mistake was signing a longer contract with Mercedes.
Yep.
I think they should have rolled the dice, gotten away from Mercedes, and brought back Renault
100%.
and gone with the Williams Renault name that we know so well from the 90s. And as much as I like the livery, they need to go back to that 90s livery. If they get Renault engines, get that livery.
Yep. I agree.
Because to a lot of people, it's just a paint job. It's just a paint job, you know, blah, blah, blah. But it's kind of like seeing a McLaren in white and red with the Honda logo on the side. Like,
Yeah, it's iconic.
it's not just iconic, it's inspirational. It's the same with seeing a McLaren in black and silver with the Mercedes logo on it. You know, it just invokes like Hakkinen kicking ass and taking names.
Yeah,
You know, McLaren, that's McLaren.
that was McLaren.
Not, no offense to Bruce McLaren and his love for the papaya color, but that's not McLaren. That's just a really,
it's McLaren sports cars.
It's
Yeah.
a tribute. It's a tribute.
yeah, but it just doesn't invoke that.
Mm.
And part of, you know, having an iconic paint job put on your car makes you feel like I'm a part of McLaren. And I think it's the same with Williams, is that, you know, even their logo is like this new Flash Murray W, and it's just like, go back to your old logo, go back to your old paint job.
Go back to our roots
Yeah,
of the Williams that were winning, Williams that took chances, as we've said, you know, the Williams that aspires to win. And with Williams, I feel like they want to win, but I don't feel like they want to do it at like they want to do it safely, if that makes sense.
yeah, they're not taking any chances.
They're not
Yeah, they don't
taking
wanna
the
take
chances
risks.
needed.
You know,
Yeah,
I
don't
mean,
take
it's
risks.
like even in their car design, how they're the only team that's running the screen mounted to the body, not on their steering wheels.
Yeah,
Like-
I don't get that. I've never got
That's
that.
bizarre.
yeah,
Yeah.
silly. It would surely annoy the drivers, or you would think, because you can't. As soon as you turn, you can't see it.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like yeah. So what are we going to give him then? Rating?
I'll let you go first, bro.
Hey, I'm going to give him a C.
You're going to give him a C.
Yep.
Okay. Hang on, I better write this down. Right. JB?
I'm gonna give them a C minus. I think they tried hard. I think they really did try hard.
Well, I'm going to seem extremely brutal. I gave him a D.
Yeah, nice.
Well, you can give them a D, but I don't think the results. As I said, Albon was only just outside the points. Like, they weren't terrible. The points made it look like they were terrible, but they were so close
Yeah.
on so many occasions. The amount of times Alex Albon was 10th in a Grand Prix with 5 laps to go and was pipped at the post
I mean, it took...
multiple times.
How many races were this season? There was, what, 22?
22?
It took Latifi, 20 races to get 2 points.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it, was
It
a
took
wet
Nick
scenario
it
in
took
Japan.
Nick De Vries 1 race to get 2 points.
Yeah.
That just highlights what's wrong.
That's right. That
this
was the
year.
issue. 100%. Albon was sensational in my opinion. He was
Absolutely.
outdrove that
Albon
car.
was probably luckless more than
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, and I think that the stepping stone is there for this team to go into next year.
Yep.
Look, like I said, I think we'll be better next year. Just this year, you know, you should improve every year as you getting to know the car and technical regulations and everything. But like I said, if they had signed De Vries, I would be really pumped for next year.
Yeah.
But getting Logan Sargent to me just doesn't excite me, and I feel like we're going to have the same problem we had this year, where we have a weak second driver and no one to help push Alex Albon or to help get that extra. You know, you can't just have Albon being the only guy chasing points every week. You need another
Yeah.
driver up there. It helps your strategies. It helps everything when you've got 2 cars in the mix for points. You know, and
Yeah.
having one guy at the back who's just a crash waiting to happen, you know, doesn't help with the cost cap. You know, there's just so many things, and I fear Logan Sargent's unfortunately going to bring the same thing next year, being a rookie. He's going to have that inexperience, you know. So I'm a bit flat about next year, if I'm honest. I'm a bit flat.
Right. We're going to move on to the next team. AlphaTauri.
Yeah, they really struggled this year.
Mm-hmm.
They were abysmal to where I thought they were going to be.
Compared to last year.
Yeah, they absolutely shat the bed, and not even Pierre Gasly looked like the driver that he was in 2021. Pierre Gasly took the world by storm in 2021 and 2020,
Mm-hmm.
but the car just was not under him this year. He looked average.
Yep.
The machinery was so bad he looked average, and Yuki Tsunoda just was treading water as well.
They got very unlucky. Yuki Tsunoda did this year. He had a lot of DNFs.
Yeah.
That weren't his fault. A lot of cars, just a lot of technical issues with the car, all kinds of things. They just, yeah, it was, to me, they got my worst rating out of every team because they're coming off an impressive year and they seem to have a decent driver pairing. You know, Gasly's a great driver and Yuki's up and coming, still showing something. And they just, yeah, they did nothing this year.
My feeling is that Pierre Gasly only signed with them because he didn't think he had anything better to go to, and then all of a sudden the seat at Alpine opens up and he's in like the Flynn. Like he couldn't escape from that system fast enough.
Yeah.
No, but he needed to.
He needed to. But Yuki Tsunoda for me is just he's living on borrowed time. He's not doing anything for me. I'm almost borderline putting him in the same category as Latifi, as he's just
that's a bit harsh.
he's just not doing anything for me. All he does is complain over the radio, and it's just like, well, if you want a better car, like if you want to be in a better car and a better team, you got to earn it. You got to show it, and he's not showing it.
Mm.
No,
You know,
that's
he's there because Honda wanted him there so that they could get the IP.
They've got no other drivers at the moment, to be fair, too. Like, up and coming for Red Bull, that's sort of worthy of that seat either. He's still sort of the best of the rest of the moment.
I think Yuki Tsunoda is the highlights what's wrong at Red Bull is that they're just signing all these young drivers to take them away from other driver academies. But half of them don't have the talent or the ability and shouldn't be on there.
See, to me with Yuki, like, I agree with a lot of your criticism, but I also think he's got something there. He's got one lap pace. He's shown it a bit. He's just got to put the full package together. And if he doesn't do that next year, he's definitely out.
I don't think
But-
the machinery helped him though.
No, the
No.
machining was bad, but, like, you watch his...
There were times this year where you could see Yuki trying his ass off.
Yeah,
And
that's what I'm saying. He's,
sometimes his mistakes were because he was overdriving the car.
and that's why I don't want to beat on him too much, because this year he showed improvement from last year, but I don't
Yeah.
think the car helped. Like,
But the fact that Pierre Gasly also couldn't get anything out of this car
yeah.
shows how bad the AlphaTauri was this year.
Exactly. So as much as I agree with you, he hasn't shown anything. I don't think he had the machinery. I think he improved personally. I do think next year he's got to show a bit more, or he needs to be out. But I did think he improved, in my opinion, and I think he warranted that extra year, because with Gasly going, he was the senior, guy left in the team, and they've really got no one else. Like, I mean, they snapped up De Vries because he stupidly become on the market out of nowhere. They didn't promote anyone, so it tells you where they're at with their academy at the moment. If a guy comes on the market out of shows one race that he's decent, they just we'll get him in, because clearly they're not rating their lower talent. So, overall grades. What are we going with AlphaTauri?
JB, I'll let you go first.
Yeah, this is an easy D-. I was super disappointed with this package and this machinery this year.
Longhorn?
Just
you-
in regards to my expectations.
For me, an E, because I think last year they had decent machinery under them, and Pierre Gasly outdrove that car fantastically, and they were a team on the rise. And then this year they've just gone completely backwards and just did not give their two drivers a machinery to do anything in, and their drivers unfortunately really didn't get to create anything with that machinery to give them anything to hold their hat on this year. So yeah, E.
Oh, I gave him a D-. I don't know how you can have such a slow car when you've got the same engine that's powering the team that's winning the Constructors and Drivers' Championship by a country mile.
Yeah, that's a bad look, isn't it?
Yeah,
That just shows your aerodynamic package is lacking.
Atrocious.
And then you've got a driver who wants out and a driver who just his ability is starting to wear thin.
Yep.
And that's the story on AlphaTauri. All right, the next team, Haas.
You know what? They started really well. You could tell that they'd saved all their tokens from 2021 and spent it on the 2022 model, because the way they came out of the blocks this year, and Kevin Magnussen especially, was brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Well, he got fifth this race, and
And then, 4 races in, it all died off and it never came back. And I still can't really fathom why.
yeah, I'm guessing they
I
They seem
assume
to-
they just blew their load and that was it.
they splurged on that car to be so ready for the season, and then very quickly every other team caught up with their next, upgrades or whatever else that team
Even
had
their
done to
first
tweak.
upgrades.
Yeah, and it's like
Like the
Haas
first-
did it. Haas literally did nothing else.
Yeah.
From the start.
Like the first upgrade usually comes at the start of the European leg, which is Catalunya.
Yeah.
And by the time we got to Catalunya,
they were go-
Haas weren't in the points anymore.
They were done. Yeah.
And they weren't in the points for a very long time after that.
But also Haas are all year, and we'll get to this later, but all year everyone was saying Ferrari in their strategy department. Haas's strategy department wasn't much better, but they flew under the radar because
No one's.
For-
They're not getting airtime on TV.
Yeah, 'cause
no one's watching a Haas do a pit stop.
No, because everyone was sitting there watching Ferrari screw up their strategy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That no one noticed that Haas was just completely bottling it. But I can narrow Haas's problems down to this: Gene Haas, Gunther Steiner, Mick Schumacher.
There was friction in this team early. There was friction in this team from Jeddah. When
The minute he had that
Mick
crash.
crashed
Yeah.
in Jeddah, the second race of the season, and Gunther Steiner came out, and that was the first iteration of Gunther Steiner talking about money.
Yeah.
And Mick costing money.
Do you think that crash cost them out of doing any upgrades for the rest of the year, and that's why they were so salty
Okay, so
on Mick?
to answer your question, I've got to go into a little bit of detail with my opinion. I think Mick's crash didn't hurt the budget as much as they were making it out to be. Mick's crash hurt Gene Haas's bank account, and that's what hurt. Like Gene Haas, it wasn't that it hurt the budget salary cap in general. It was the fact that Gene Haas had to pay for it, and Gene Haas chucked a wobbly. If that makes any sense.
Is Gene Haas the one funding the budget?
Yes.
Because, it's $145 million no matter what.
Yeah, he's going to
Well,
pay that regardless. So
Yeah.
Yeah. Like Gene Haas.
What it was a gearbox gone, and an engine gone, and a chassis gone. Like
I think it
what
cost them
that
out of
was one less of pretty much every component on the car,
yeah,
which is one less component that they had at the end of the year to fight with.
Yep.
Which would have hurt. I mean, not that Haas are a particularly, terrible situation taking grid penalties when you're starting 14th anyway, but
I think they
I
might have.
don't think it was financial. That was.
I think they might have used up such their. I reckon they might have spent all their had all their tokens ready to spend. They already had them all planned in. I reckon they had that first race where they come out really good, and they probably had in their idea, we've got this. They would have been so tight on their budget. They're probably thinking, we can probably get this one upgrade done as long as we have 0 crashes on the year. Like, we have to have nothing go wrong in the year. So that's their fault for thinking that. But as soon as it did, they just went, scapegoat, Mick Schumacher, we can't afford to do any more, we've gone crap. When really it's probably a financial thing in terms of, because like you said, everyone's got 145 mil. Doesn't matter. There's no difference. But I feel like it was got to do with they might have had all their eggs in one basket and they just needed to not have a crash, which is a silly thing to sort of do. They had the crash and then they've just put it all on Mick. Basically blamed it all on Mick because he cost them in a crash, when now they can't afford to do anything else. But really, you should be going, well, you should maybe disperse your cap better to maybe include some of this, accidents happen,
Yeah. I think Drive to Survive sort of highlighted it with, I think it was last year or the year before, when they're in, it was 2019, when they had that deal with old mate Rich Energy.
Yeah.
And then he didn't punt up any cash, and because he didn't have any. And Gene Haas was really on the button about how much everything costs. I think if Gene Haas could run a Formula One team on $10 and not upgrade the car, he'd be a happy man, because he'd saved a whole bunch of money that he could pump into everything else other than that Formula One team.
I think that's what annoys me with Haas, is they're taking up a spot on the grid, and you can't get teams in like Andretti and that want to front up big money to get in and want to be in. And you've got Haas taking him a spot with Gene Haas, who doesn't like spending money and just complains about having to spend money despite being in a very expensive sport. And it's like, well, why are you in it then? If you're not passionate, where you don't care about the money that you've got to put in because you're passionate and you love it, why are you doing it? And it feels like, I think you've said this before, Phil, it feels like Gunther Steiner talked him into it as Gunther Steiner's little project, and now Gene Haas can't get out of it. That's what it feels like. So he'll just bicker and complain about it, on the side, because it's Gunther's little project that he gets to do. But it's like I said, Gene Haas just doesn't seem like that kind of guy that loves Formula One.
No.
For how much he complains about it.
What he loves is his name everywhere.
Yes.
What he loves is
Penske's not there.
trying. Yeah, well, Penske's not there.
And that's all it is, and that's what it's annoying about Haas. It's like,
Well, you know why Penske's not in Formula One? You know Roger Penske owns IndyCar.
Just owns it
He
outright.
owns it.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. He owns IndyCar and he owns the Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
Yeah, right.
So he doesn't want to come to F1 because why go to somewhere else that he doesn't own? Where he can't bend it to his will.
I don't think he bends it to his will. I think it's
No, but I
very-
mean-
I think IndyCar's very even.
Yeah. Yeah, but a lot of people are like, well, the problem with IndyCar is it's not accessible outside of America because Penske only knows America, despite the fact they've been in Australian supercars and other sports. But he's just got a very narrow-minded thing about how he owns IndyCar and he owns the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and he sees it as just making money.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Probably the Gene Haas approach.
yeah. So that's why Penske's not in Formula One, because he owns IndyCar.
Well, Gene Haas is, and all he does is whinge. So
Yeah.
that's probably furthermore as to why Penske's not in. He's like, man, Gene Haas is over there just bitching about how much Formula One costs.
yeah, it doesn't seem fun. Why would I want to put my money
Yeah.
on
But then
that?
you've got Michael Andretti and Andretti United that want in, and the first team to sit there and say, no, we don't want them, is fucking Haas.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because they want to be the early American team, despite not capitalizing on that. Like, they don't seem to. All their biggest. And this is why I feel like it's all about Gunter Steiner, because he's their biggest thing they advertise. Like, it's all about Gunter. That's their product in a sense. That's their selling point. Gunter. It's like you've got this massive growing American market, and no one cares Haas is American. People care that Logan Sargent is American and at Williams.
Well,
You know, like, no one from America cares about Haas because it's all about Gunter Steiner. It's not about we're an American team, you know. Like, they don't even try and go to those routes.
You look at the Haas car.
Worst livery known to man.
Worst livery. It's a Colgate-looking livery.
Toothpaste.
Yeah.
It was when it used to have Old Mate's backing.
I mean, the car looked amazing when it was sponsored by Rich Energy.
It was a nice
And,
livery, yeah.
and the thing was, on that car, you could see on the side wings, you call them, had the American flag.
Yeah.
You could see the American flag up until 2020.
Yeah,
There was nothing on the car that said this is an American team.
because it wasn't an American team; it was a Russian team.
Yeah.
Well, no. In 2021 is when it became, when Uralkali
Yeah, right.
bought in, and then it started getting painted in the Russian flag.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And they could sit there and say, oh, no, it's the same colours as the American flag. Yeah, but the difference is when you paint it the way you've painted it, it looks like a Russian car. When you've got at least one part of your car that is covered in the fucking Star-Spangled Banner, then we know it's an American car.
yeah.
Yeah. They just haven't leaned into it enough, which is, like, crazy to me with the market. But they lean into Gunter Steiner. That's why it feels like it's just this big Gunter Steiner show. And I'll be honest, I used to be a big fan of Gunter Steiner. Used to like Haas being the underdogs, and now I'm kind of over them. I don't care about them anymore. I
Yeah.
don't care about them being the underdogs. I don't like how they treated Mick, and I don't
That really
like how they
plays
complain.
that plays right into Ralph Schumacher saying the reason why Mick Schumacher was booted out of the team was because he was more popular than Gunther Steiner and he couldn't handle it.
Yep. Wouldn't surprise
Yeah.
me. Wouldn't surprise me.
All right. So, who wants... I'll go first with my ranking this time.
Go on.
I'll go first. Are you ready for this?
I'm ready.
F.
Woo! Our first one.
F. I think Gunther Steiner is just... He's got Gene Haas's arm up his ass and he's just a mouthpiece for Gene Haas so Gene Haas can whinge. The car started off great, but they didn't do any upgrades to it. It was by the end of it, it was a dog, and I think they shit-canned Mick Schumacher for another vanilla driver in Nico Hulkenberg.
Yep.
JB?
I'm giving them a D minus. No, I'm giving them a D. They started great, and they were there or thereabouts. for the first maybe 6-8 races. And then they fell away. But Kevin Magnussen put it on pole at Interlagos. Rightly or wrongly. And, they fell away hard during the middle of the year and the end of the year. But they had one bright spark at the end. So I don't think it was a complete failure. The campaign was a complete failure. They treated people like shit. And they've rode a lot of people the wrong way. And they're pretty on the nose now with a lot of F1 fans. But I don't think their season was a complete failure.
Yep. I'll go D-. For the same reasons JB said. That pole Magnussen put on getting their first one was enough for me to notch it up from an E, I think. Just because that gave me something to care about at the end of the year. But, yeah, like I said, their first pole's not something small, so you can't say it was completely unsuccessful.
Okay. So I was just being unnecessarily brutal.
You were voting with emotion
Yes.
instead of logic.
Right. Speaking of voting with emotion, Aston Martin.
F!
$2.99. Well, I'll let you go with this one, Longhorn.
Gosh. Aston Martin. For the 3 quarters of the season, I probably would have been looking at giving them close to an F, other than Sebastian Vettel out driving the car at times. But they come on a bit towards the end of the year. And if you go off recency bias, it's a better look than Haas, where they started alright and then turned to a dog box. You'd rather start a dog box and come good. So, yeah, it was a pretty season considering their aspirations, considering their 5-year plan. I mean, what are
don't die.
Well, what year are they on? Is it 2 or 3 of that plan?
2.
2. So, it wasn't... Where'd they finish last year? Same spot? Or higher?
I think they were higher last
They're
year.
higher.
Yeah. It's honestly, Stroll's in the bin. Stroll needs to just go. He's a meh driver, and this year I think he had a couple of incidents that were outright dangerous, and I think he deserves to get a ban, because, it was just completely bad, but unfortunately he's in the team because his dad owns it.
Sorry, I was just thinking, remember who he had one of those bad instances with?
Oh, yeah. Next year's going to be good.
Goatee fit.
Yeah. So that half of the garage is just, can go in the bin, but the Sebastian Vettel side was good to watch at times, and I'm glad he drove away in the right way and not drove away in how his Aston Martin career went, which was overall pretty crap because he had Lance Stroll as a teammate and a team that just wasn't getting it together. But to me it's just a pretty flatline average season. Not what you're wanting in a 5-year plan to win the World Championship.
I think Aston Martin's biggest issues are Lance Stroll. I think they've got to stop copying other cars. Like they've got Martin Whitmarsh working for them. They've got technical personnel from Mercedes and Red Bull. Surely to God they can come up with their own thing instead of sitting there going, "Oh look, Red Bull's got that. Oh look, we've got it now."
Copy paste.
Yeah. What is this fucking CAD? Are they using the CAD program and just taking photos? You know what it is? They've got that guy from the first Fast and the Furious movie who's got all the photos of the Supra gun. It could look like this. It could look like this. They got that guy. That's their design department, is that guy.
They've got photos of 9 other cars. It could look like this. It could look like this.
But in green,
It could look
like this.
And it will decimate all.
Except it won't.
It's on a 10-second car.
On a 10-minute car.
It's a 10-year car. I think that Lance Stroll is just dangerous on the track. He doesn't belong on the track. He should be working in catering. And you know what, the absolute highlight of this is that Sebastian Vettel's walking away. Like he was the highlight of the team. Sebastian Vettel's walking away and they're bringing in Fernando Alonso. They're just going from strength to strength.
It's going to create for some interesting talking points next year.
That's a very choice word, isn't it? Interesting. Calamitous, I'd go for.
Yeah, 100%.
Right, well, Longhorn, what do you going to rank them?
I'll give them a D.
Yeah. JB.
What are you going to rank them?
Well, no, you go next.
No, you get
You didn't rank them.
Yeah, because
You gave me the big waffling explanation, then didn't rank them.
No, because I'm getting to my ranking. What are you ranking them?
What do you
Well,
think about
I'm going
Sabat?
to. I think they improved a lot in the back half of the year, and they actually did come up with something of their own that no other team had. Genuinely.
What, a retirement thing for Sebastian Vettel?
Yes, and besides that, no, they are the only team on the grid running aerodynamic end plates on the rear wing. Their rear wing goes out, and then they've got this like little curly bit, and that's actually what helped their car get better at the end of the year was
And-
more rear downforce. And teams are going to copy that next year.
No, they're not. It's been outlawed.
Is it really?
Yep, it's been outlawed.
Did they outlaw it?
Yep.
Interesting. When did that happen? That's new.
About a week ago.
Really?
Yeah, it's outlawed.
Yeah. Well, look, you know what? They did. They did.
They
you know,
tried.
Unlike Phil ragging on them, they did actually try something that wasn't. And they did actually have a good car at the end
Yeah,
of
but
the year.
did Mercedes have them too?
I don't think so.
I think they did.
Did they?
Yeah.
I don't know.
And guess what?
They're outlawed too.
I think Mercedes had those end plates first.
I don't know if they did. I honestly can't remember.
Yeah. No, I'm pretty sure Mercedes did.
Ooh. Well,
Just keep rambling on. I'll fact check that. Let's have a look.
Oh, here we go. Get the fact checker out.
I don't know. I'm trying to envision the Mercedes rear wing.
It was either Mercedes or Alpine.
Yeah, right.
One of them had it, and
Well,
then
you know,
Aston
I'm not
Martin.
going to go and shit all over Aston Martin because you don't like Lance Stroll. They had a lot of two, double points finishes over the year,
Yeah.
especially at the end of the year.
Yeah.
Sebastian Vettel drove the arse off that car at Abu Dhabi. I think didn't Lance Stroll get sixth in a race? Or was that Sebastian Vettel?
Sebastian Vettel did.
One of them got sixth. Like, man,
Uh,
I'm going to give them straight down the middle C-.
Yeah, that's fair.
Well, that's slightly under the middle, but okay.
Straight down the middle C-.
Okay. Well, I'm going to give him a D plus, and my main reason is 2 words: Sebastian Vettel.
Yep.
Like, once he announced he was retiring, he drove for pure enjoyment, and he.
But the car was there.
Yeah, and Sebastian Vettel could get something out of it.
And like the
And Lance Stroll was getting out of it too. I mean, when he wasn't airplane crashing with Fernando Alonso.
That's the problem, is that I reckon that most of the car's development came from Sebastian Vettel putting in the time and the effort, whereas Lance Stroll was probably sitting at home tweezing his eyebrows, trying to
Most
figure
likely.
out, trying to invent new ways.
Trying to invent a personality that he just can't seem to work out how to do.
Lance Stroll's at home, staring in the mirror,
Just,
plucking
Dad,
his
can you
eyebrows.
buy me a personality, please?
Lance Stroll plucking his eyebrows is the only time he looks in a mirror, though. He sure as hell doesn't do it in a race car. Like, this is what my reflection looks like. Wish I knew what my helmet looked like, but I could never see it because I never look in a mirror.
Oh God, you've lost me there.
Broken.
Oh gee, you broke me.
Am I wrong, but
He's going to spend all off season trying to come up with a personality now. It's true.
Just stop it. I'll never finish the damn episode. Oh God.
Him and Latifi can have a personality off.
hey,
Well, him and,
He's not
I'm
on the
not
grid.
your buddy, yeah? That's their personality. Off.
Maybe he's buzzing.
I'm the only Canadian on the grid. Yeah. No, I'm the only Canadian on the grid, buddy.
it sucks that they never... Did they crash into each other?
Yes. Melbourne.
And we never had the flip top.
Yeah.
not
We're
your
talking
buddy,
about it on the potty.
That's your money, guy. You're not your guy, pal. In the gravel trap.
Instead, now we got Canada versus America.
Oh, God.
No, but Lawrence, fucking Lance Stroll, Lance the boy, not Larry the dad. Lance Stroll is just
Larry's eyebrows aren't that bushy though.
because he tweezes, but I think he sits there and watches old IndyCar races and goes, "How can I replicate those crashes? How can I do that?"
I don't know,
Because
man,
they're
but
spectacular.
then we go back to like Istanbul 2020 when he was on pole by 1.5 seconds, and it's like, you've got talent.
In the wet, he does.
Yeah, in the wet he's
100%,
fine.
Yeah. Even
Yeah.
this year, there was a race in the wet. I think he come out.
Suzuka.
Was it
Yeah,
Suzuka?
I think
yeah,
it was a Suzuka, and
yeah.
he finished like 6th or 5th.
Yeah, he did pretty well. It's like, yeah, in the wet, this guy comes out and does all right, but any other time,
Yeah, he just crashes into people.
it's just
Like-
dangerous on the track.
Yeah, they used to say Daniel Kvyat was a torpedo. This guy is just a Scud missile.
Yeah.
He really is. Just a Tomahawk missile. It's just, yeah. But Sebastian Vettel was the highlight of the team for the whole, particularly in the latter half of the year. He was the highlight, and that's why I gave it a D+. All right. The next team is Alfa Romeo, JB.
Yeah. They were sort of nowhere this year. They were like completely in no man's land. I think the only time I really noticed the Alfa Romeo was when it was on its roof, going through the gravel track.
Or every time we
Silverstone.
read the drivers' standings.
The amount of time we did not see an AlphaTauri on screen this year was phenomenal. They were probably, besides Haas, Haas was probably filmed more because Magnussen got pole in Brazil. They were probably the least filmed team this year. Like I remember, looking through the field to see where Bottas is and where Zoe is, and you see glimpses of Bottas and Zoe, but they got no screen time this year, probably because they were just so lost.
They were they were lost. Like
Just
the
so
first 6
mediocre.
races, Bottas come out and we're like, hell yeah, Bottas is like,
When the Mercedes was a dog box and Bottas was out driving the Mercedes.
yeah, he's like splitting them in the middle, and we're
Yeah.
like, yeah, here we go, Bottas's revenge. He's gonna outscore Hamilton, in an
Yeah.
Alfa Romeo, and he got all those points that made him basically sit in 10th for the rest of the year,
He was there forever.
forever, for like the first 5 races.
He did a Haas. He got like 35 points and they just sat there.
46 points because like, Buddy sat there for so
But it
long.
but it was enough.
Yeah, and then it just went to the wayside, and Zoe was good enough, I think, because if you look at their stats, they were quite comparable, Bottas and not in points, but like out qualies and stuff like that.
Mm.
Zoe brought it to Bottas, other than those first few races when he was learning, but that just meant they both sat in the middle in no man's land. Like the only highlight was every now and then one of them might get into Q3, maybe.
Yeah, I think Bottas got in the Q3 at, where was it? I think it was Interlagos. Or was it Mexico? Don't know. But yeah, and it's a surprise because it's like, oh yeah, I forgot AlphaTauri was a brand.
You mean Alfa Romeo?
Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
See, that's how forgettable they are. It's like they're so shit that I confused them with the other one that we already talked about.
Yeah.
They're not even shit though. They were just nowhere.
Yeah, they just yeah.
They were just right in the middle. There was nothing exciting except for when Guan Yu Zhou was upside down
Yeah.
at Silverstone. That was the most exciting thing that happened all year for them.
Pretty much, and that
Like
VB's
it-
our favourite adopted Australian ever.
And that
Yeah.
Valtteri Bottas looks really good holding his WVB
Yeah.
in a VB singlet
With a mullet.
with
and
a mullet
and a dirty
and a
mustache.
dirty stash.
Right, I suppose we should just go to our rankings then.
Well,
Unless
yeah, what are you going to give it, JB?
C minus.
Longhorn?
Yeah, dead down the middle. I'm going to say C.
Yeah, I went with the C as well. I think that Valtteri Bottas did carry the team. Zhou Guanyu next year, he did well this year in his rookie season, but next year he's got to step it up.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, there'll be a pressure on Zoe next year for sure.
He did enough to warrant another year.
It's going to be interesting though if Fred Vasseur leaves and goes to Ferrari, who's going to take over.
Yeah.
That's going to be very, very interesting. But and it's the last season they're going to be called Alfa Romeo too next year.
Before the
then
Audi
after that,
takeover starts.
yeah, but the year after they're reverting back to being called Sauber
Yeah.
until 2026. So, but they have renewed their Ferrari partnership until the end of 2025. So, if Matteo Binotto is going there, he'll at least know how to fix the Ferrari engine that they provide him. Yeah, but I gave him a C.
Yep.
Next team is McLaren. And I know that JB started off the last one, but I'm going to let JB start off this one because no one likes to hammer into McLaren more than one of their followers.
Yeah. Empty, hollow sort of year, to be honest. Lando Norris put it on the podium at Imola, and I thought it was the start of, all right, cool. We got over the pre-season testing brake issues that plagued us all through Bahrain, and then we got to Imola, and he finishes third, and I'm like, right, here we go. And then it just never came. And Daniel Ricciardo was terrible. Daniel Ricciardo was absolutely terrible all year. There was flashes of brilliance, like we had a really good result in Singapore, and I think we got a double points finish in Abu Dhabi to finish the year, which was nice. And I think Australia too. I think Melbourne we had a good race. I think Danny Rick was like 5th. But they just didn't get out of the blocks this year. Like, Lando Norris was consistently best of the rest, finishing like 6th or 7th, or picking up scraps where he could. And you could tell, I mean, when your year starts and you've got a brake issue and it's a fundamental problem with the car that you just cannot get your head around, you're screwed. Like, they were the only team that went for like a pull rod front suspension, and everyone went for a push rod front suspension. And
yeah, they were the outliers on a lot of design, like a lot of things in their car.
Yeah, they were the outliers, and I think some things worked and some things really didn't. And it was just a combination all year. Sometimes the car was on and it was good, and there were other times the car was completely off. And you just didn't know, weekend to weekend, like qualifying, are the boys going to make it? There were weekends where they were both in Q3, and there were weekends when one was out in Q1 and one was out in Q2.
Yeah.
Like, there was a time, like, you'd watch the timing screens and Lando and Daniel would be in the top 10, and then by the end of the session, Lando's 9th and Daniel's 13th, and it's like, well, it looks good, there's sparks, and then it just goes away, and just week in and week out, you just didn't know what the car was going to do, and I don't think the drivers did either.
Yeah.
I think there are a lot of fundamental problems with this car this year, and they'll be the better for it going into next year, at least learning from their mistakes. And I really fear for Oscar Piastri
Yeah.
to try and hit the ground running next year with a car that is going to be completely new, also for Lando, because this concept, whatever it was, will not be next year's concept.
Yeah, it has to be.
They're
thrown
going to
out.
reverse this, whatever, is going to be the mirror image next year. Whatever aerodynamic fundamental concept they went with this year's car, next year's is going to be completely different, which is probably a good thing for Oscar Piastri, because that means Lando's also going to have to learn the car. But he's going to have to hit the ground running because there's a lot of pressure on this team at the moment. They lost out to Alpine in the championship. They've fallen another spot.
Yep.
They finished 4th, and now they finished 5th this year, and there's a lot of pressure on a team and I was so excited the way we finished 2021. I mean, not the way we finished 2021, the middle of 2021 when we won 2 at Monza, and Lando almost won Sochi, and there was so many, just the car looked like it was going in a good direction. And then the end of 2021 we plateaued off and we started dropping, and then 2022 was just like, all right, we've got to do something about it, and it just wasn't there. All year, Daniel Ricciardo spoke about how the car had no feel, and Lando Norris said, well, people think that the car was built around me, but it wasn't, because I struggled with it too. And there's just so much pressure on this team next year to get it right. This is going to be a massive winter break for them. 2023, they have to get it right. They have to get it right.
Yep.
What are you ranking them?
There were some good moments and there were some bad moments. I'm gonna go straight down the middle and give them a C. It's probably a little bit more than they deserve, but I mean, they finished 5th in the championship. That's par for the course, I guess. But it's not it's not what we wanted.
Do you want to go?
No, it's up to
Okay,
you.
okay, I'll go.
Yep, go.
So I think McLaren's biggest problem this year wasn't. I don't think the car was the worst problem they had this year. The biggest problem they had this year was everything surrounding them. Was Daniel Ricciardo not performing and them trying to get rid of him and succeeding. The whole saga with Alpine and Oscar Piastri. Just that they had, I think from May they already had their eyes on next season.
Yeah, because the car was fundamentally wrong.
Yeah.
The car was wrong, and they knew it. They knew early.
Yeah.
They knew early that the car was wrong. You know, there was glimpses like Singapore was brilliant. I think we got 4th and 5th.
Oh, I don't entirely mean about the car. I mean, they were talking about Pato Award and Colton
There was a
Herta.
lot of outside noise for the team, but
And-
that's the pressure I'm talking about.
I think that's the whole problem. Was
Because
they
they're
had,
not where they were, and they're panicking. They're like, all right, the car's wrong. We need to start looking at 2023 now, because if they have a shit year next year, heads are going to roll. I don't know if Seidel will go or Zach Brown will go, but
Zach Brown will have to go.
there's going to be a lot of pressure on McLaren next
Oh,
year
I
if
think-
they don't get it right.
I think Seidel will go.
I think he'll move on his own accord.
And
Yep.
I think Seidel is a pretty good team principal. I think the problem is that Zach Brown is hanging around. Maybe Zach Brown needs to just take a step back and let Seidel do his job.
Yeah, well, the other side of the coin is where there's smoke, there's fire. Lando Norris has got his eyes out of McLaren looking around. He's contracted till the end of 25, I think,
Yeah.
but he's looking. And if this car doesn't get good, they're going to lose Lando Norris,
Which is their best.
which
chip
is
they got
what
at the
they're
moment.
building the team around now.
Yeah.
Now that Ricciardo's gone, because if Lando goes,
Yeah.
we're back to square one.
Unless Oscar Piastri comes in as the new young Lando, but really, yeah, like you said, Lando's your chip. He's
Yeah.
shown he's got the talent. You need to put the car in front of him now to let him compete,
It's like building a premiership-winning halves combination and then one of them going to another club.
Yeah.
Like,
Yep.
You will be back to square one if you lose Lando Norris. And if this car is not good next year, Lando Norris will have his peepers peeled.
You know what?
Because there's a lot of teams that want him.
100%.
You know what I think really hurt McLaren as a team, though? And it wasn't this year, it wasn't last year, it was the year before when they lost Carlos Sainz. I think
Yeah.
that put a dent in the team.
Yeah, Carlos and Lando were such a great pairing. But you can't even begrudge them for going after Daniel Ricciardo.
No, that's right. That's right. I
He
mean,
came on the table, and he was at Renault getting consistent points.
Yeah.
And
He was single-handedly dragging that Renault forward.
he won Monza, rightly or wrongly, and Lando should have won Sochi, but, there's a lot of pressure on this team, and next year there's going to be a big winter's break. They need to be a contender next year.
yeah. But all the crap going on around them also highlighted the problems going on with the car. And it was just this really big dark cloud storm over the entire team, and there's no way that anyone on that team could have worked to their full potential
There was a lot of distractions.
with all the garbage going on.
Yeah.
What's your
So-
ranking, Phil?
So I am giving them a C.
Well, I'm going to be very, very harsh. I'm going an F.
Oh.
Simply because McLaren should be better, and they got their design so wrong, as you said, JB. They knew early on they had to throw the season in a bin.
Oh, they knew from
You know-
testing that it was wrong.
Yeah, and so they had one of the best driving pairings on the grid, in my opinion, and they did not give the guys a car when they're a team that should be able to give the guys a car to at least compete. And I think they just failed completely. And then they also had the whole getting rid of Ricardo saga and everything around it. To me was just like, what a shonky year, which should have been an improvement, not a
Yeah.
shonky. You know what I mean?
It's
And it was
not
just-
one we're going to look back with fondness at all.
No, not at all. And in my opinion, like if you're going to be an outlier in the way you develop the car, you need to get it right, or you fall on your face pretty hard.
Look, there were moments where it was right.
Yeah,
Lando, Lando got the podium in Imola, and
that was the problem. Was it was so up and down. You
Yeah.
just couldn't.
oh,
You know?
track to track, weekend to weekend, you didn't know what you had.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I couldn't imagine being Daniel Ricciardo, who was already struggling with the car,
yeah.
not knowing. It's like, is this car going to be half a second off the Red Bulls, or is it going to be 2.5 seconds off the Red Bulls? You didn't know.
Exactly
You didn't
right.
know. You didn't know what the car had. Even like there were practice sessions where the guys were like third and fourth, and it's like, this is a good weekend. They're both out
Come
in
quali,
Q2.
they're gone. Yeah,
You don't know what the car had until they bolted the softs on and gave it the full beans. And
yeah. And that's-
and 60% of the time it was underwhelming.
Yeah, that's right. That was the other problem. Is when it was up and down, it was more down
Yeah.
than it was up because
Yeah.
even their up wasn't spectacular. You know, I think
Yeah.
what was their best was Norris third,
Norris got third in Imola, and
Yeah.
then I think we got fifth
Maybe a
and,
fourth.
fifth and sixth in Melbourne, and we got fourth and fifth in Singapore.
Yeah,
And
Yeah.
then we got a doubles points finish in Abu Dhabi. But,
They-
but man, getting excited. This takes me back to when we came out of the Honda days. And we were getting excited at finishing 10th.
yeah,
I don't want to be excited at McLaren finishing 10th.
yeah. You want to be going for podiums.
But there was actually one race that you've completely overlooked. Was the epic drive that Daniel Ricciardo did at Mexico.
Oh, yeah, he did do an epic drive at Mexico.
He showed the old Daniel Ricciardo. It was almost like the weight had come off and he connected with the car.
That was probably the only weekend it properly synced, and Singapore.
Yep.
And Melbourne.
Yeah.
But this is too far. That's 3 races out of 22.
Yeah.
It's
You've
just
got to,
too far
you've got to,
between.
you've got to be connected for 22 races. You can't be
They
connected
were the
for
most
3 races.
unpredictable car on the grid.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You did not know what they were going to do.
exactly right.
You did not know where they were going to be until qualifying finished.
And you know,
And then even in the race, like there were races where they both started in the top 10 and Lando finished 10th and Daniel finished 15th. There were races where they both started outside the top 10 and both finished 6th and 7th.
but here's a little interesting thing I was just thinking about. You know what team used to have a really inconsistent car?
Who's that?
Toro Rosso.
Mm.
You know who designed those Toro Rossos?
Who?
James Key.
Yeah.
So-
Well, James Key's got a winter probably to save himself.
Yeah, otherwise, yeah, I would be looking at
There's going to be
shipping him
yeah.
on because I think he brought the worst. When you factor in what tools you should have around you, McLaren is a team that should have all the tools to be able
They
to
do
design.
have all the tools.
That's right. So to get it as wrong as they did, to me, that's why I gave them the F because, if Williams had got it wrong, I could still give them a bit of leeway because they're a bottom-dwelling team trying to work it out. McLaren's not a bottom-dwelling; they should be a team that is going for championships.
I know, they've got
That
all
is
the pieces there.
Yeah,
Oh,
and
Zach Brown and Andreas Seidel, they had Ricardo.
Norris.
That-
yeah.
They had James Key.
That brings me to an interesting thought that I just had. If
Ding,
McLaren's
light bulb.
yeah, it was a light bulb moment. If you look at McLaren, like they've got their road car division,
Yes.
and they are on the top of their game with their road car
Oh,
division.
their road cars are phenomenal.
Why are they not poaching staff from that side to bring them over to the F1 side?
It's a bit easier to make a road car than an F1 car.
No,
I believe the staff is in place. They just got it wrong.
I think they just tried to go too bold with some of their different,
Yeah.
because this is the first year for everyone with their rigs. So I feel like they tried to be like, well, we'll be the outliers and it's going to work. They must have just believed it was going to work. And unfortunately, if it had worked, we'd have been like, whoa, McLaren, in their eyes, they probably thought if it worked, they'd be up the top. Because they've gone different to everyone else. Like, they got it
Now-
right,
and
but they
look,
got it wrong. So,
and the best thing for McLaren is now they've got 12 months experience.
yeah.
They knew what the car was like when it worked, and they knew what the car was like when it didn't work. And they can take those philosophies into next year's car.
well, this is
Next year's going to be the telling one.
this is why I look at the F that you've just given them and go, okay, all right, because McLaren took chances. They took chances. They did the polar opposite of Williams. They did the opposite of Aston Martin.
McLaren, the difference is, though, is McLaren wasn't a team that should have taken chances because they had everything else in line to go go the safer route.
Absolutely.
They had the driver pairing. They had everything else. Like, Williams are a team that needed to take a chance.
Yeah.
McLaren wasn't, in my opinion.
Yeah.
You know, they should have just gone the safer development, route.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I totally agree with what you're saying.
Yeah.
But at least they gave it a shot. You know, to quote Lord Alexander Hesketh, if you're going to lose money on the roulette table, why not go for the big roulette table?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
But
Yeah.
But I mean, I take both your points on board. The gamble didn't pay off, but the team and the pieces are there to pick themselves back up and make sure it works next year, and they have to. They have to use the pressure they're feeling as motivation going into 2023, because next year is a make or break season. If the car doesn't work next year, Lando Norris will not stay past 25.
no.
The car has to work next year, or they're losing Lando Norris.
And then they'll drop even further because
They're back to
unless
square
Oscar
one.
Piastri is the next Lando Norris and they've got him to hold their
He's got the talent to be.
He does,
but
yeah.
he's never driven a Formula 1 car.
yeah. And what if they give him a dog box that's unpredictable? Like
Yeah.
that's my worst hope for. My worst hope, is that the right word I'm looking for?
Worst fear.
My worst
Worst
fear
chance.
for him, at
Yeah.
McLaren. So
We'll see.
yeah, telling year like you said next year.
Speaking of telling years, the next team is Alpine. So Alpine for me,
That was solid.
they were solid.
I was impressed by them this year.
I don't think they really should have won fourth place. Or okay, put it more to the point. I don't think Alpine won fourth place in the constructors. I think McLaren lost fourth place in the constructors.
Yes.
I'm sorry, JB. Like, I'm not trying to put the boots in
No.
with you. Like,
No, I mean, look, we
It-
did.
That's actually
Yeah.
giving credit to McLaren, saying that they should be better because they
yeah.
got better standards.
Yeah.
They're better
I
standard.
think you're
teams.
underselling Alpine, to be honest.
Well, I think their engine concept.
was quick.
It was
That
it
engine was the fastest in a straight line for most of the back end of the year.
Yeah. I think that they. Oh, okay. So to highlight what I think is wrong with
Here
the
comes the
team.
Alonso rant.
No, it's not an Alonso rant. It's an Otmar Zafnauer shot.
Right.
I mean, how do you and your legal department not sign up your reserve driver,
Who's the
to
hottest talent to hit
the
Formula
hottest
1?
talent, and you don't sign him to a contract? You've got an internal memo, and then he goes and signs with another team, and then you've got the absolute gall to sit there and say, "Oh, he lacks
Integrity.
integrity."
They have not stopped firing shots at Oscar Sinton. It's like, my God, guys, get over it. You stuffed up.
I'm going to go as far as saying I think Otmar Zafnauer is just the worst team principal on the grid.
Oh, really?
Like, he just goes on and on and on and on and on. It's just like firing shots and asking me to say something about Aldas. You're just going to just get the wrong thing. I think that part of the other issue that Alpine had this year was their two drivers. Despite the fact they finished 8th and 9th in the drivers' championship, they really were butting heads this year because you got Fernando Alonso, who he could not get out of that team fast enough.
Yeah.
And then you've got Esteban Ocon, who I don't think anyone besides Pierre Gasly likes him on the grid.
I don't even think Pierre Gasly does. I
No.
think he's just put a smile on because he's
Yeah.
now in their team.
Yeah, like he's getting paid to smile.
Yeah. He's got being paid to be his friend. On
Yeah.
camera, he's like, yeah, me and Esteban are best buddies, but Yeah.
You're just like, yeah, no, they're gonna. Once
Esteban is Esteban's biggest fan.
they're gonna be, they're gonna be best friends until the first race, and then gloves are off, friendships out the door, and it's I'm going to murder you
Yeah, 'cause
before you murder me.
Pierre Gasly's going to be able to try and overtake in DRS, and Ocon's going to bloody move in his way, and they're almost going to have a crash, just like
Yeah.
happened at Jeddah at the start of this year with Fernando and Ocon. Ocon just defended
I-
stupidly on Alonso, and it just caused rifts for the rest of the year.
I do think the best thing that's happened to Alpine, though, was letting Alonso move on to another team.
Well, they didn't let him. He let himself, but
Yeah, but I mean,
they stuffed that up, as you've said, with the whole Piastri thing. What the best thing that could have happened to them was let Alonso go and sign Piastri up. They
Yeah,
should
but
never
that-
have been looking to sign Alonso up.
yeah, they were sitting there going, we'll re-sign Alonso. It's like, okay, sorry, Alpine. This is 2022. This is not 2005 and 2006 when Alonso beat Schumacher.
Yeah.
That everyone keeps wanting to remind us of. We know Alonso beat Schumacher in 06. We're just, get over it. And so many people, like the TV networks, Alonso's so great, blah, 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 blah. Alonso is a douche canoe. He really is a bell end. Alonso is out for Alonso, and that's it.
Well, he
Yeah.
proved it by jumping ship so quickly.
Yeah.
You know, but so
I don't know why he gets so much. Like, I don't know why he's so loved for his behaviour, because anyone else did that, they would hate him. But the way Alonso, for some reason, everyone gives Alonso a pass for being an arsehole,
yeah, like
for being a
like-
dick, and it's
like,
I don't get
everyone-
why he gets the pass. over-
everyone in Australia hated Sebastian Vettel for multi 21.
Yeah.
And yet, Alonso gets a fair pass for what he did to Hamilton in 2007, how he carried on at Ferrari.
How he carried on at McLaren.
Yeah, GP2 engine and never raced with less power. And, like, we can understand you're frustrated, Fernando, but
Even how he bloody carried on in Alpine. Like, they
Yeah.
gave him a shot to come back, and he just whinged a lot, like the
As-
whole
as
time,
soon-
and then just dumped him as soon as he could.
as soon as he signed a contract with Aston Martin, all he did was slag off Ocon.
Yeah. And
it's
Alpine.
like, yeah, just
And everyone was like, yeah, Fernando,
Yeah.
yeah, slag him off. They're the... It's like, come on. Like,
I can't wait until the day that he retires.
yeah.
And I hope he doesn't get a send-off like Sebastian Vettel got.
He will.
That's the shame. He's already got that send-off.
And then he came back.
Then he came back.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, I mean, you
So
know,
his third fucking retirement, won't it?
Yep.
GP2 career.
This time round it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I still maintain, though, maybe they should bring back Mika Hakkinen because he's still on sabbatical, so...
Yeah. He could return.
You just need to remind him that Sebastian Vettel's won 4 championships and Lewis Hamilton's won 7 championships
And
since the last time he won a championship.
Yeah.
Well, also, Alonso's only got 2 championships.
Yeah,
Okay,
but his
so-
last one was 2006.
So, let's see. Vettel's won more. Schumacher's won more. Fangio's won more. Prost's won more. Vettel's won more. Senna's won more.
Vettel's won more.
Yeah, I said Vettel. Hamilton's won more.
Vettel's won more.
Yeah, Vettel's won more.
Max Verstappen's won as much as him.
Yeah, Max Verstappen has won as many as
Max
him.
Verstappen's won as many races and as many championships as Fernando Alonso, and he's half his age,
Yeah,
roughly.
Yeah.
Mika Hakkinen's won as many championships as him.
Certainly has.
And he beat Schumacher twice.
Hmm
Top that, Fernando.
Well, technically, you
Well,
can say he
so
did that
did
too.
So we're just going to say Fernando Alonso is as good as Mika Hakkinen.
No, Mika Hakkinen drove rings around him.
It was a good car.
I have all the time in the world for Sir Mika Hakkinen, and if he's not knighted, he fucking well should be. So the Alpine, good car, average drivers, crappy team boss. C minus.
Summed up.
I'm going to give him a B minus because I think they were the best of the rest on track. Not that that's much, because as we've said, I think McLaren lost 4th place more than they won it, but I think they were consistent all year. Like their car was quite consistent. Again, it was the fastest in a straight line. Their disappointment was they botched Piastri, and they haven't stopped fucking whinging about it. Fernando Alonso, Ocon weren't the teammates we thought they were. So there was a lot of fighting there, but I can't knock their on track. I mean, they got fourth in the end, so they did what they wanted to achieve. And I think their car was consistent week in, week out. It wasn't like a lot of other cars where you didn't know. You kind of knew that the Alpine were going to be in the points every week. There wasn't weeks where you're like, oh, the Alpines have gone missing. At least not many that I could remember, So I've got to give them something for just being consistent. So I've just sort of given them B-.
JB?
I'm giving them a B. This car was on fire in testing, in the literal sense. The engine exploded and was on fire. And then, despite all the contract shit and Ocon and Alonso's car seemingly having magnets in them and crashing all the time, and Lance Stroll trying to murder Fernando Alonso in America, they still finished fourth in the constructors. And they were the fastest car in a straight line in Mexico and America.
And Azerbaijan.
Whatever they did, they somehow got their Renault engine to have more grunt than the Honda engine and the Ferrari engine. So whatever they did, like, this team is run terribly, and their drivers are hate each other secretly now that that's out of the open. But for what the design team did and the power unit team did and the aerodynamic team did to this car to get it from where it was to where it finished was an absolutely phenomenal effort. As the only car on the grid running Renault engines, they have got nothing else to base their data off because they don't have a B team. They're the only car on the grid running their own engines, so the only data they had all year was what Fernando and Esteban were doing, besides crashing into each other.
Which, if you heard, it was all Esteban doing.
It was all Esteban's fault. Yeah, our friend here turned into me. But I think Alpine, the car, had a phenomenal turnaround. I think they were probably almost the most improved of the year.
Yep.
Like they were bro. They weren't.
On track, I would agree. Yeah.
I think Mercedes was the most improved of the year, but
towards the end,
I think it was very good.
Which then politely brings us along to Mercedes. So, Longhorn, I'll let you go first with this one.
Mercedes, okay. Yeah, look, I mean, they didn't have the Mercedes season we've come to know over the last 7-8 years.
That's a good thing.
Yes, it is a good thing. So, you can't sit here and say they haven't reached their standard they would expect, but we're in different regulations. And I've actually got to tip my hat off to them that they were the one car that improved over the back half of the year, far out better than the other cars.
Yep.
They were reasonably consistent for what they had all year. Russell was in the top 5, Hamilton was around that mark. That's as good as their car was. They only had one DNF to technical failures, which is in the last race. So overall, I think they did a pretty good job as an outfit. Not as good as they would want, as what we know as Mercedes, but I think they could be. They got their race win in the end that they wanted, and I think the future is good going into next year. I think they'll be better for it next year, and I think they'll be able to compete next year. So for the whole season. So I'm actually looking forward to that because I don't like Mercedes, but I want them to compete. I just don't want them to dominate like they have, So if they can bring the car back to dominating next year, I'll be happy to see it. And so I'll give them a B+.
So positives for me when it came to Mercedes this year was George Russell.
Yep.
He was the star of the show. He just really was consistent, and you notice he never got angry over the radio. He never got angry over the radio. He would sit there and politely show his, if he didn't agree with something, he would say it. But also, he was always giving the team feedback on what was going on with the car.
And what I really liked about George Russell this year was he was always as well giving his opinion on what he wanted. And to be honest, a lot of the time he was right.
Yeah.
With the strategy he wanted. So, and a lot of the times he ended up having to listen to his team and that got that wrong. So maybe that's a blemish on Mercedes is they're not the greatest with strategy at times. But George Russell showed that he's got the maturity and the know-how to say, I want this. And they should probably start listening to. I'm hoping they start listening to that next year. It's probably something Charles Leclerc needs to learn. You know, I kind of look at that as an attribute that you're able to pick out while you're driving what you should be doing. You know, not looking at data. And George is able to do that. So it's pretty impressive.
I think George showed that he is a leader. Like, he is a genuine leader at that team. Rather than complaining about strategy calls and Bono, these tyres are rubbish and that kind of malarkey. The car did improve, but the car didn't improve until after the minimum ride height was raised across the board, which meant the porpoising was eliminated.
That's true.
Which is then... It conveniently ties into when the Ferrari started to drop off. Was when the ride height was raised.
Yeah.
And another positive was we didn't have to see Toto Wolff as much on TV.
Yeah.
That was a nice change.
The negatives are, I actually think Lewis Hamilton is now past his prime. I think his form is starting to drop off. I know the car wasn't perfect as well. I'd go as far as saying I think Mercedes power unit was the worst power unit on the grid this year.
Yeah, I would say that.
And I think aerodynamically it was compromised as well. So they did very well to get third. They did very well to push to actually get back in the fight against Ferrari towards the end of the season.
Yeah.
So if they can improve the power unit and improve their aero, they're in with a shot. But I personally don't think they should be offering Lewis Hamilton another contract. And that's not because I dislike Lewis Hamilton. I just think he's starting to lose a bit of the form, and if he stays around for too long, he's going to become a novelty act like Fernando Alonso. or you know,
unfortunately, with Hamilton, whether I agree with you or not, I think he's earned, with his experience there, he's probably unfortunately earned the right to say if he wants to stay on or not. You know?
I think next year is going to be the telling season.
Yes, it will.
Like, if George Russell is dominating him again, because he did get dominated by George Russell this year. It wasn't,
Yep.
You know, there was a vast yawning chasm between the pair. I think if Russell devours him again this year, or if it gets even bigger, if the gap is even bigger, then Mercedes really do have to look about whether they want to offer him a contract and keep
You know
this
what I can see
relationship.
happening? If next year Hamilton's not quite up to it, you know, like not as good as George Russell. George Russell's beating him again, but he's still got it, in a sense, Hamilton. They could flip him for Lando Norris. I could see that happening. If McLaren isn't getting it right as well. That way Hamilton goes and has like a swan song with McLaren where it all started. And Lando Norris gets that move to that team, that top team where... I just thought of it then. I just thought I could see that storyline playing out.
I personally think Lewis Hamilton be like Mercedes or bust. Top of the pile or done.
You don't reckon he would go back to McLaren
No.
if he knew his time was out, but he could still, you know, drive
No.
and give something to them?
No. If he's not in the team that's screaming away with the win, he doesn't want to be there. But overall, I gave Mercedes a B. JB.
Yeah, I'm going to give them a B as well. They started the year, Lewis Hamilton couldn't walk getting out of the car at the start of the year. Sky Sports cameras were showing him lapping around in 15th place, and we were just stuck there having to watch him lap around in 15th place. But by the end of the year, they're 1-2ing in Interlagos, and they're right up there, and they almost catch Ferrari for second in the championship. For a car that started as badly as it did and finished as strongly as it did is just testament to what the machine has been for the last decade.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think Lewis Hamilton has lost any touch, to be honest.
No, I think
he's
he's
just
still
had
got it.
I think he's definitely still got it, and I think George Russell has absolutely got it too. And I think they're going to be challenging next year. They're going to be straight back challenging for the championship next year. Them and Red Bull and Ferrari are going to have a three-way fight for the title next year.
Yep.
I think Mercedes they've figured out what they did wrong. They're going to go away from the zero side pod philosophy that screwed them over at the start of the year. They're going to go away from the low floor that gave them the worst porpoising on the grid, and they only have to take they take the best parts of the philosophy that they had now with a car that was the most improved on the grid, and they put it on next year's cars, correcting the mistakes that they made fundamentally at the start of this year. They're going to be back.
Yeah, I agree.
They're going to be absolutely in the fight next year.
Right. So then moving on to Ferrari. Right, I'm going to handle this one. Ferrari, I think they did very well to retain second place because God knows they did an amazing job of trying to throw that one away.
They tried.
They started off really well. Like their championship was off and running. They had an amazing car at the start. And then how can you describe it? It was like
They bottled it, mate.
They did what the North Queensland Cowboys do every time they get within a sniff of a grand final, which is they place hands around throat and proceed to choke.
Except that one time that they didn't.
Like Charles Leclerc as a driver is very inconsistent. He's either completely switched on and nails it, or he bends it, puts it in the wall, and then screams, "No!" Like he's doing his best Darth Vader impression.
He's either the best driver on the grid, or he's like bang average.
Yeah.
He's driving on tilt. There's no in between with him.
Yeah. You got Carlos Sainz, who he was doing all right. He was just unlucky.
Yeah.
He had a lot of bad luck this year, Sainz.
But then...
And he got better as the year went on, too,
Yeah.
I found.
Yeah. I mean, he got his first win ever at Silverstone,
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
which he earned that. He earned
did.
that.
He did.
But then the car... I think the Ferrari power unit was... At the start of the year, I thought the Ferrari power unit was the fastest power unit. By the end of it,
Probably was.
By the end of it, though, I think it was the second.
Yeah.
Behind the Honda.
Yeah.
Or the Red Bull powertrain. Call it what you will. But the simple fact that car managed to handle the porpoising better than most teams.
Mm-hmm.
And then that got taken away. And it went nowhere. They hit the salary cap limit because of Charles Leclerc bottling it. You've got a strategy department that seems to just keep hitting the snooze button in the morning. And a car that can't look after its tyres. Part of me thinks, though, that it wasn't the car that couldn't look after the tyres. It was Charles Leclerc that couldn't look after the tyres.
It's a possibility.
And you've got a team principal who's no longer there now, who just looked like Italian Harry Potter. And he really wasn't a team principal because it was a mistake.
Yeah.
It's like, how many times are we going to cop it was a mistake, or, well, we have to analyse it before you sit there and go, well, you got to do something. You can't
Well, you don't
just...
have to cop it anymore. That's why he lost his job.
Yeah. But, Ferrari just seemed to want to throw it away this year. Like, they had such an amazing start and they wanted to throw it away. And it just felt like it was 2018 and 2016 and 2012 and, 2007 they tried to throw it away and they won the drivers' title and the constructors. But it wasn't through their own lack of trying. I mean, this year, they really tried their best to snatch victory from the jaws of defeat. and instead all they did was snatch defeat from the jaws of victory.
Yeah.
It was really sad and dismal to see. But the positives are there. Like, they've got a quick car, they've got a great engine, they've got two fairly solid drivers, but honestly, at the end of Charles Leclerc's contract, I'd be shopping. Shopping for a Mick Schumacher or someone, or a Lando Norris.
Yep.
Because Charles Leclerc's got to be consistent, and if he's not consistent, then you're not going to win a championship. Consistency gets you points. Consistency gets you championships.
It's a marathon, not a sprint.
Yeah, and if you're not consistent, and it doesn't matter how many times when you crash, if you scream no in there like you've just been told that you killed Padme, it's not going to change anything. So, and I know these two guys are probably going to wail into me and put the boots in me about Ferrari because they've been waiting all year to do it. I gave the team B+, oddly enough. Yeah. On the grounds of the car actually being half decent and that, it's just a shame. Their strategy department is crap, and they have a driver who's about as consistent as a granny on the road.
JB.
Well, Longhorn, you're itching to...
No, I want to hear JB.
Oh, JB.
I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm not even going to try and find positives. Ferrari absolutely fucking bottled this. Absolutely fucked this. They had a 6-month development head start on the entire field. Red Bull, Max Verstappen DNF'd his first 2 races and had the Drivers' Championship wrapped up by Singapore.
Please don't hurt me. I was gentle with you.
You were gentle with me.
Yeah, you've pulled the rubber gloves off. You're like, we're not putting lube on this, mate.
I don't know what more Ferrari needed. Charles Leclerc absolutely drove on till... I don't know. I have never seen a guy lead the championship by 34 points and drive like it's a 1-point gap.
The guy can't handle pressure.
I said at the start of the year he melts like a chocolate bar under pressure, and for 2 races he proved me wrong, and then Imola came, and he's in the sand trap, and the 34-point lead starts going. He melted. Carlos Sainz, the start of the year, was struggling with the car. He was unlucky, but he was struggling with the Ferrari. 34-point lead. 34-point lead, and then by Silverstone or Max was back in the lead and he was gone. Like, the way Charles Leclerc bottled this, and then all the pressure that came with Charles Leclerc choking filters down to the team, and they make poor tyre decisions, and they just revert back to like 2020 Ferrari, where they're making dumb decisions under pressure, and it was just the biggest fucking implosion.
Yeah.
And, the Drivers' Championship was over with 4 races to go. Constructors, when did that? That was sealed in Brazil, wasn't it? But it could have been even earlier than that. I just can't believe the advantage Ferrari threw away. Even if you weren't the best car on the grid by the end of the season, the fact that you couldn't keep pace with Red Bull, you couldn't make it you couldn't make it interesting until the last, even take the constructors to the last race. Like, the way they imploded, how do you mentally recover from that next year? Yeah. I mean, the first step is fucking off Matteo Binotto, who I think is a scapegoat anyway. Maybe you did need a change, but I just don't know how is Charles Leclerc ever going to challenge for a championship now?
He's not consistent enough.
He blew a 34-point lead.
He drives with, like I was saying before in the Mercedes, when we're talking about Mercedes, about George Russell, his maturity in his drives and his consistency. That's what will win you a world championship, is the way George Russell will drive. Because he's got it all. He's got the pace when he needs it. He's got consistency. and he's got maturity to, say to his strategy team what he thinks.
Yeah.
Charles all year hated the strategy calls, fair enough, because they were horrible, but never ever had any idea himself. Was never like, no, we're going to do that. Like Carlos was in the Ferrari. Carlos was able to go, no, I want to do this, or no, this. And part of it, I get Charles is saying, well, you guys are looking at the data, you should be able to direct me better. And that's 100% correct. But if you want to win a world championship, it's a combination of all things working together.
Yeah.
It's you as the driver, them as the strategy, it's all of it together. And sometimes one or the other maybe does a bit more of the heavy lifting. And I feel like Charles does it over one lap. He's excellent over one lap. Qualification, he will pull it out. The minute you need him to do it over a race distance, and there's a bit of pressure, crumble.
I just don't see how he's ever going to be world champion with the way he puts so much pressure on himself.
You know what I mean?
You know, like when a front rower makes a break in NRL, and he like runs through, and he's got the ball,
Doesn't know what to do.
and he doesn't know what to fucking do. That's Charles Leclerc. He's like running at the fullback, and he's like, do I pass it? Do I kick it? Do I just run at the full? What do I do? I don't know what to do. And then he just gets tackled and falls over.
Yeah.
Or he just falls over himself and drops the ball.
Or
That's Charles Leclerc.
Or they try a horrendous kick that just does nothing.
That's Charles Leclerc. Like, he's got the talent to be world champion, but his mentality is so fucking fragile.
Yeah.
He's got a glass mentality.
And to add to your point, so I'm thinking about kicking myself in the balls here. Like the strategy department, they're sitting there going, "Oh, go to Plan C." Like, how many fucking plans do you
The
need?
amount of bloody plans. Oh, we're thinking of Plan H, or we're thinking.
And it's like it's every fucking race.
Yeah.
No
we're
other
on
team's
plan-
got that. It's like, it's Plan A, Plan B, or Plan C, and Ferrari's like, Plan J through Z.
What do you think of Plan X?
What plan are we
Plan
running?
X plus 6?
What you've got
Plus
26 different plans. What plan are we running? Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's,
Yeah,
it's
they-
not even the alphabet. It's like
like-
that weird like AE sign that,
Plan
that
or
Elon Musk named his kid. The A, the
XE.
A.
Like,
Yeah, XE.
I don't know if it was with you guys, but before one podcast in the last couple of weeks, we watched it where like NFL players were going to score a touchdown and they dropped the ball before they got
the line.
Yeah.
before the line. That's Charles Leclerc.
Yeah.
That's him right there. He just drops the ball before the.
He's crossed the line.
And the worst thing is, right, he had the 34-point lead. He goes into Imola, does a stupid attempt at an overtake and ends up
In the gravel.
in the gravel.
Yeah.
I mean, he kept going.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't write the car off, but
Yeah.
that was him.
And then
it was
and-
unnecessary.
And then you get France.
Yeah.
France where he's winning.
He's leading by
leading the race.
ages.
And then on the simplest corner, the
the
simplest
slowest
corner,
corner on the track, and he's off in the tyre barrier.
puts it in the wall.
How did he even get out that far?
And he's sitting there going, no! Sorry, look, mate. What the fuck?
I no longer believe he will ever be world champion.
He doesn't deserve. He
I
doesn't
just-
deserve to be world champion. And then he won at Austria.
He won a few races.
And you're sitting there going, great. Like, he's back in the game. And then he bottles it again.
Yeah.
You end up with being me, where, here you are at 12:30 in the morning. He was winning by a country mile, and then he's bottled it, and he's either out of the race or out of the points. And you get your beloved book that you take all your fucking notes for these things, and you end up throwing it into the ground, going, "Oh, for fuck's sake, Charles!" Or then the strategy department screws up. You're just like,
Oh, we'll put hard tyres on a curling track. What's the worst that could happen?
All the data says the hard tire is not the choice to go for, so we're going to go for the
literally-
hard tires.
Literally everyone else is coming for mediums.
and then they
we
get on
haven't
the radio.
seen him on
they
the
get on the
Ferrari yet.
They
though.
get on the radio after they've put the hard tyres on, and Charles Leclerc's is like, these are the wrong tyres to be on, and they've gone, yeah, we knew that, but we thought we'd take the chance.
How are the tyres? Question.
You fucking knew that.
It was a mistake.
And that's what their excuse was. It was a mistake. But you fucking knew those tyres weren't right. You knew it, and you did it anyway. You just
I
don't
just-
give a toss.
Yeah.
You're just turning up, go, here's a Ferrari. We should win by a default. No, you fucking don't. Williams should win by default, then by your bloody logic.
And the problem is, the 6-month advantage they had, they no longer have.
Yep.
Every team's caught up now. Like Red
Well-
Bull, Red Bull were ahead of them quarter of the way through the season, and Mercedes have caught them.
yeah, well,
So now they've gone from having the advantage to probably being
And-
behind.
And they spent all their money on the bloody salary cap. So, come Hungary, and we thought there was upgrades coming after the summer break, and there was no
Nothing.
upgrades because they decided that they're going to start spending money on next year's car.
Well,
They've already they started on next year's car on the summer break because they couldn't
they're trying
spend
to get
any more,
another 6-month advantage to bottle.
Yeah.
because they couldn't spend any more money on the current car, so they started working on next year's car. It's like, well, you're doing the same thing again. You're doing the same thing. You're starting on next year's car 6 months early, and then you're going to get to the same point next year where you can't upgrade the damn car, and Charles Leclerc has bottled it and put it in the wall about 5 times, and you can't develop the car, and then you go, oh, gee, what we'll do is we'll start on next year's car again. You're just starting this fucking cycle
The best
again.
thing for Ferrari would Carlos Sainz to be the championship leader. 'Cause
Yeah.
I don't think Carlos will bottle it the way Charles does.
Carlos is
was
consistent.
unlucky.
Yeah, Carlos is
Carlos was
consistent.
bad luck more than sheer shitting the bed.
Yeah, like his car catching fire at Austria.
That was bad luck.
Ricardo taking him out at Imola.
Yeah.
But-
the Melbourne crash was his fault. Like, winding
Yeah,
up the
he-
gravel,
yeah,
that was
yeah.
on him. But
Yeah.
But the thing is, if you listen to the engine at Austria, and it was the first time I was like, something's funny about that engine, and then you hear it at Mexico and Brazil, because the Ferrari engine's got the smaller turbo, it's spinning up faster
Yeah.
and earlier. And because Austria, Mexico, and Brazil have got the thinner air, because they're higher up,
yeah.
the turbo is spinning even more, and it's spinning out of control.
Yeah.
So maybe, I don't know, fix your fucking turbo?
Well, they
Look,
didn't
I-
have the money to.
They've got enough lessons to take into next year, but I just don't know how.
I don't know.
I just don't know how you mentally recover.
How
from-
many times can you stick a cattle prod up the backside of a cow before you sit there and go, well, this shit ain't moving? That really highlights Ferrari. Is
every
how many
year since 2007.
we did win the constructors in 2008
Is
BTW.
that because we got it stripped? 'Cause
Yes.
of Spygate?
Yes,
So you won by default.
yes.
Doesn't matter if you win by an inch or a mile.
Winning's
winning.
All right. So what are you giving your beloved Ferrari? No, you gave them. What did
Yeah,
you
I
give
gave
them?
him a B plus. What are you giving
Are
him?
you sticking with the B plus?
Yes.
What did I give them? Did I rate
No,
them
you
on
haven't given him anything yet. You've given him shit.
D? They fucking bottled it, dude. I don't care. They bottled this.
Yep. I'm giving him C minus.
Oh fuck. All right. Do you want to elaborate on that, or
I think everything that's needed to be said
you've
has
put
been
the
said.
boots in enough? Right. Finally, we get to Red Bull. JB.
A plus, man.
He-
Max Verstappen was imperious. 15 race wins, the most points ever in a season. Sergio Perez got a couple of wins too.
Yep.
You know, in spite of all the bullshit. You know, Max made a couple of mistakes here and there. You know, he made the one in Singapore, and you know he had the double DNF to start the year. But once the reliability was sorted, they were absolutely untouchable, man. It was good.
They were a championship-winning team on all fronts. Like
They just
everything
took
worked.
the momentum from Abu Dhabi 21 and just ran with it.
But they got everything. Yeah, like they were championship mentality team. As the pressure didn't get to them. They got a championship mentality driver, Max Verstappen. So tick. Strategy team dominated this year. Their strategy was always excellent.
Yep.
It was always on the money, or
Yep.
there between. It was never bad. Tick. They got the second driver. Perez done what he needed to do to help him win the constructors. Tick. There's basically as flawless as a season as you could get.
Yeah.
You know, what more could you ask for out of it? Like, A+. That's all we really need to say. They were
They
just
got-
that dominant
They
and
got
that good.
gold numbers in both championships for a reason, you know.
Yeah.
Well, I just gave him an A. Purely, the only reason why I'd demote him anything is because of Helmut Marko. I think he's trying to shit stir with Sergio Perez
Well,
and
that's
Max
why Daniel
Verstappen.
Ricciardo's there
Yeah, that's right.
on the off chance, but
But like Red Bull, they had a shaky start, but once they got their reliability issues underway, and Ferrari decided to bottle it, Red Bull did what any champion team would do and took advantage and took the ball and ran with it and drivers and world constructors champions, and they deserve it.
yeah, absolutely.
100%.
Brilliant season.
Look out for them next year because despite them having the penalty on and less wind tunnel time, I still think they're going to be the team to beat. I think they've just got everything so right that they can only take this momentum forward.
Yeah. Right. I wrote down my 5 favourite races for the year. See how you guys go compared.
Right.
So, 5 favourite races. I thought Australia was it was probably the best Australian Grand Prix we've had in many a year,
It was a pretty
particularly
solid
over the
race.
last 2 years where we haven't had one.
Absolutely.
Better than that, isn't it?
But it was nice to see cars actually being able to follow and overtake on the track,
Mhm.
and that the changes actually mattered.
Yeah.
My next race, and if you guys have got them on your list, that's fine. Add more.
I had Australia on my list
Yeah.
in my top 5.
Bahrain.
I had Bahrain too.
I thought Bahrain was a great start, and it was nice to see Ferrari kick off with a win.
Gave us the hope of the year that we're going to have 2 competitors in it with the battle between Ferrari and Red Bull. We looked on at that point.
Yeah.
And it was a decent race.
Absolutely.
My next one was Austria. Always like Austria as a track.
Yeah, Austria is a great track.
It's a great track. It's got elevation changes, and we got to see a Ferrari on fire.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
Not in the way they wanted to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not in winning the race, just literally on fire.
Another race that really piqued my interest was COTA.
Yeah.
Um,
Is that because Fernando Alonso did his best airplane impression?
yes, part of it.
Yeah.
But it was just interesting to be able to see the cars actually do overtaking on the track.
Yeah.
I mean, I've probably completely forgotten about Canada. Like, Canada was probably a great race this year, but
So many races this year that I've forgotten.
Yeah.
and the final one that I thought was a really, really good race, and I know people will disagree with me, was Mexico.
Really?
I mean, it was very much a procedural at the start, and then Danny Rick coming
Danny Rick won it
alive.
alive. That was cool to watch.
That
From
really made it
McLaren-
memorable for
From a
me.
McLaren perspective, it was cool as because you had
Yeah.
to overcome that penalty too. It
Yeah.
was brilliant.
What races have you guys got to add to that?
I've got Hungary.
Yeah.
Hungary had plenty of overtaking, 65 overtakes in that race. I think there's about 8 cars within like a second of each other for a long part of the race. It was interesting. I think that was the one where we had that what was that 3-way overtake between Hamilton? Was it Hamilton, Leclerc, and Norris? Can't remember who was in it.
Was it that or was it Silverstone?
That might have been Silverstone.
That
Sorry,
was Silverstone.
Was that Silverstone?
That was
Okay.
Hamilton under, yeah.
that's right. That's actually next on my list. Silverstone.
Yes. That's on my
Carlos
list too.
Carlos Sainz had his first win.
Yeah, that was the race of the year to that point.
Yeah.
That was the race of the year to that point,
Yeah.
Silverstone. And Carlos Sainz getting his first win.
Yep.
Was awesome. Hamilton's double overtake. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
that was brilliant. That was probably the top 3 races of the year.
Yeah, I got it as my number 1 for Silverstone. And my next was Monaco. I enjoyed Monaco this year. It was wet. Part of it was wet, so it was enjoyable. Perez got a win, so it was a different driver for me. And it was probably one of the better Monacos we've had for a while, so I enjoyed it.
Well, I got Jeddah because that was the first time Max Verstappen and Charles Leclerc. You know, they did in Bahrain, but Jeddah was like race long.
Yeah.
And not just because I adore the track, but Max and Charles got stuck in for the entire race. That was a great That was all the way to the end too. I think Max just got him at the end. I had Singapore. It was a great race for McLaren, 4th and 5th, and it was raining, and it was tricky. We didn't have that was our first proper wet Singapore Grand Prix, like start to finish almost, and we had some uncharacteristic errors. Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton both made like big mistakes. You don't see them make mistakes, and then I'm pretty sure Latifi just turned into. Who was it? He turned into? Was it Zhou Guan Yu or was it?
Yeah, it was Zhou Guan Yu.
Yeah, just turn into him because Latifi's gonna Latifi.
Yeah.
And the other two were Canada and Melbourne. They were good races, but it was also the first time they'd been back on the calendar since COVID.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it was the first time we got back to Montreal and got back to Melbourne in 3 years.
I enjoyed Melbourne this year. It was a highlight for me
Yeah.
as a Williams fan. Albon putting on those 50 laps on the hard tyres.
And
then getting 10th.
and Stroll and Latifi crashing into each other.
Yes, they did.
Yeah,
that was when we had the all-Canadian battle.
Yeah,
Guy.
Oh, yeah. Guy, pal,
that's what it's all about, eh?
Tyler Boot.
And I thought the 3 worst races of the year were Miami, Abu Dhabi, and the Netherlands.
Really?
Okay. I had Miami, France. Oh, my third one's sort of tied.
It's Monza and Spa, isn't it?
No, not at all, not at all. My tie is Mexico and Abu Dhabi. But I might give it to Abu Dhabi just because Mexico did have that Danny Rick push it to the limit moment. So
Gave us our
gets
own
it for me.
meme.
Yeah, yep.
I had the triple M of death. Monaco, Monaco, and Mexico. All processional bullshit races. I mean, Monaco was in the wet, yes, sweet. Miami was just straight up fucking terrible with the showboating and the shit podium. And Mexico, it had Denny Rick, but
Yeah, other than
man,
that.
it was so processional to that last 20 laps.
Yeah. And Danny Rick was the only thing in it that...
You guys both gave Abu Dhabi a bad rap. I think there was enough on the line in Abu Dhabi for it not to be one of the worst races of the year. I can't even remember Catalonia. I
Yeah.
barely remember France.
I remember Catalonia because Verstappen went wide in the gravel and they have had 3 pit stops.
Yeah,
Catalonia was actually alright this year because everyone had 3
Yeah,
pit stops
like-
as the...
Azerbaijan was meh.
Yeah, it was this year. It was
Azerbaijan's
forgettable.
always meh.
Yeah.
Except last year.
Last year was good.
Last year's was crazy.
Yeah.
God, there's so many races I've just...
Netherlands wasn't
no, I
great.
forgot it. I hardly remember Zandvoort. I
Yeah.
hardly remember Zandvoort.
All I know is Max Verstappen won.
There's so many. Hungary I barely remember for some reason.
Monza was
Spa,
procedural.
Was Spa good?
No.
It was good to have Spa back, but I don't think Spa was exciting.
Oh, no, it had the moment where...
It had the double overtake. It had the Mika Hakkinen when Esteban Ocon did his
yeah.
Mika Hakkinen impersonation.
And Alonso and Hamilton collided.
Oh, yeah.
And he
Alonso-
did the
Alonso
finger
nearly-
waggle at...
Yeah.
Hamilton,
And he had that famous quote of shows that he can't overtake, he can only drive when he's leading a race.
yeah,
yeah,
shows
that's
he
the
can
only way
only
he
race
can-
from first.
Yeah.
Right. Now, moving on from that. So this year it's we've had some pretty good moments in the podcast.
Have we?
Right.
Yeah, I think so. My first favourite moment to do with the podcast is the constant Fast and Furious references.
Yeah, that too.
We always managed to get one in.
we always-
Every pod.
It was almost a mission for me to get one in.
Now
Had to
that-
get one in.
Now that Carter Verone, or whatever his fucking name is gone, Eduardo Freitas took his cutter and his Eva Green
rat and his
went home.
bucket.
Look out next year for more interesting ways Phil can fit in a Fast and Furious racing.
Oh, no. Next year it's something different.
It's going to be hard without Eduardo Freitas there.
That's it. Yeah.
Got on his yacht and gone to the airport. Don't go to the airport, he's going to the yacht.
We'll have to make it driven references.
God,
It means we'll have to watch that movie
I
again.
hate that movie.
Another favourite moment was a podcast earlier in the year where Longhorn sort of got stuck into Johnny about McLaren.
Yes. How could I forget?
Yeah,
and
that was a little heated. but-
Johnny was getting a little bit heated. And
All in good fun. All in good fun.
poor old me sits in the middle. And I'm trying to calm it down.
I don't know. I mean, you don't have to offer me too much sympathy here, considering I just ragged on Ferrari.
Yeah, but I was shit kicking him too. So
Yeah, no,
You
it's
know,
good. All in
um,
good fun, mate.
Yeah.
And
It just shows we're passionate.
I do believe that specific podcast got a text message from your mum saying we need to tone down the language.
We need to stop swearing. I need to stop swearing. Yeah.
Another highlight for me this year was the constant slagging off of Lard Stroll and Nicholas Latifi.
Our favourite Canadian.
Oh, it was like teeing off with dynamite.
Yeah.
Really, it was just too much fun.
It was.
You know,
It was.
go Tiffy. You will never be forgotten,
Yeah.
my friend.
He's made a lasting
And
impression.
now that Logan Sargent is in, we've got an honourable replacement.
Yeah.
He's going into the Hall of Shame alongside Mazepin and fucking... Who else? Stroll.
Maldonado.
Yeah, Maldonado, but at least he won a Grand Prix.
True.
Our last one.
And Ricardo Rossett,
There's been some terrible ones.
who he had like a personalised license plate that said Rossett, and someone changed it so it read Tosser.
Brilliant.
I think that was when he was driving for Williams. They changed it to Tosser.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Good content.
I'm amazed he didn't drive for Copper fucking Suka.
They were gone by then.
Yeah, true. They went ASA fucking P. Another amazing moment during the podcast this year was us teeing off on the Ferrari strategy team.
We gave it to him that one race, eh? Oh, that one they completely bottled.
Yeah, with the abacus and the,
Yeah,
my
yeah.
first strategy set.
It was me giving it to them the worst,
That's
and
it.
I'm the supporter. I'm just, what are you doing?
I forgot how much that broke me at the time. When Ferrari, my first strategy set.
Strategy guide for dummies book.
Yeah.
Square peg round hole. It's not working. That was
It was a
Ferrari's,
mistake.
that was Ferrari's championship.
the thing and the thing and the running.
I don't want to insult anyone, but you sound like one of the presenters from 4CRM.
Oh my god.
No.
Coming up next is Hero 4CRM. He is actually special ed, though, so I shouldn't actually take the mickey.
Dude,
out
you
of it.
can't. Oh my god. That's the line we've crossed. I'm glad this is the last episode of the year.
No, but he does actually play some really good music on his show, so I can't sit here and slag off about him and, you know.
Nice.
Yeah.
Alright, what else you got?
I actually had something in my head then that I didn't write down, but I've completely forgot it thanks to you lot.
Do I have to bring it up then?
Yeah, you can bring it up.
Push it to the
Limit.
limit.
Yes! Yes, that's the one. Push it to the limit.
Push it to the limit. And
the race's edge.
and you know what? Because it was hilarious at the start of the year, and then it was less hilarious. We completely forgot about our buddy Mike Crack.
We did.
He became irrelevant.
He became irrelevant like Aston Martin, and then became slightly more relevant at the end, but we still didn't mention Mike Crack a lot.
Oh, I remember listening back to a few of the potties, and there was some great Mike Crack moments that we didn't laugh at. I was like, gosh, we let that one go. Like, there was one where you said something about your crack, but you were referring to Mike Crack, and it was gold. I was pissed
They just
myself
slipped
in the
through the
car.
cracks,
but
mate.
Yeah. None of us laughed at it. I was like, gosh, we're maturing.
No.
No.
We just pushed it to the limit and it just slipped through the cracks.
Butter just slipping through the crack.
Oh my god, the mic!
Yeah, that's all I had actually. The other
Yeah.
one was the Fast and Furious references.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've pretty much, you pretty guys pretty much nailed all of them for me, other than I've only got one more. It was having Barry on the podcast.
Yeah, he finally showed up.
We need to get him back on some point.
Yeah.
He got
Next year.
Did he only do one?
Yeah, I did two.
No, he
You
did
did-
two.
you did
'Cause
two.
the
Two in a row, because I had COVID. and he replaced me for
And
that episode.
and the other one, he had a leg cramp
yeah,
during the F1 report.
yes,
Yeah, he was dying.
and he wanted me to. Yes, I remember, because we're in the middle of the podcast and he just puts his foot up next to me and is pointing at it, and I'm like looking at him like, what does he want me to do with his foot? What is going on? And he's like just pointing like, my foot. I'm like, I don't know what you want me to do. What is happening? And I think you're mid giving the race report or something.
Yeah.
So when I try not to say anything, I'm like,
Got to keep the show going.
Yeah.
The show must go on. The show must go on.
Doing
Keep
the
it going.
race report in the background, he's breathing heavy, like he's jacking off at the corner. He's like, It's like, what's he doing?
with his foot pointing at me
Yeah,
like,
he's like, so yeah, no, he had that nice foot cramp. We eventually figured out what was going on.
yeah. I eventually helped him out with his cramp. Don't worry.
Uh,
Phil, he's worried. Oh,
what a year! Have we
another
gone
year
through
done,
our
hey?
2023 predictions, lads.
Well, no. I'm not finished with that yet. So, my final sort of couple of memorable moments. I'm gonna get a bit sappy here. So, like for all the fun we've had this year, like I've had to deal with my dad passing away, and my boss John also passing away. So it's without lowering the tone very much. Like it's also been difficult in the background with those things going on, and but doing this podcast has certainly helped me get through those things, as well as going to work and carrying my mum through life, which is that's fun. But my another memorable moment is something that's actually hanging up on my wall, which is a Schumacher frame thing that Longhorn got me for my birthday. And without getting sappy here, the best thing about doing this year has been doing it with you two guys.
Yeah, man.
You guys,
It's cathartic, eh?
That's good,
you
boys.
guys are friends. Your brothers. Thank you for being part of my life this year, and being part of this podcast, and just really getting me through the year.
Yeah.
So
It's been a pleasure.
Good, man.
Cheers.
Karakaru. Cheers, buddy.
So we're gonna have a quick swig.
I need a bottle opener.
Oh, no. Got one of my keys on.
Hey, quick,
I had one.
Get that to him.
I need to have my
Get that to him.
Get in there, Lewis.
There we go.
Push to
Alright.
the limit. Whoa, we're on it. Thank you to all you guys out there
Absolutely.
listening to us.
Yes.
I know a lot of you guys, especially the local people around here, that listen to it aren't F1 fans. They rely on us for their Formula One updates. I know Mum and Darren especially, they're not F1 fans, but they love listening in to see what's going on. I know Brian and Glenn, Barry and Bernie, they're not the biggest F1 fans either, but they're behind me. They love that we do podcasts. Even Jamie. Jamie's a MotoGP girl, but she listens to us.
She does?
Yeah.
She never says anything to me.
No, she.
Well, she doesn't say anything to me much anymore anyway. So.
Yeah, I know, but she listens. There's a lot of
Yeah.
people out there in the background that listen, and
And I mean, we've met a few people along the way as well. Like there was a guy at our local shopping centre who was decked out in Aston Martin gear.
yeah, we got him. down.
And I honestly can't remember your name, so I apologise for that. But I mentioned all I had to do was go up to him and go, "Oh, you're an Aston Martin fan, eh? How you going?" And he was just like, "Oh yeah." And I went, "No, I'm a Ferrari supporter, dude." But Vettel's going to do well this year, and pardon me, he didn't quite, but he did all right. And I did say to him, I reckon Vettel's going to pull the pin at the end of the year, and he said, no, he won't. But
Yeah,
that's
for the
right.
longest time, it looked like he was going to stay on. But
Yeah. But, we've spread the word,
we have.
around to try and get people listening in, and Yeah, and
We got new channels. Like we've got our Facebook page that we started this year.
Yep.
That was
Twitter.
Barry's idea. That was Barry Enchilada's idea too.
Yep.
and
Twitter. I think that was Brody's idea.
and Rumble
On Rumble.
and Spotify, which Longhorn is
Yeah, we took.
taken care of.
Yeah, we were on YouTube
And then
exclusively last year,
and then
but now we're on.
JB doesn't know this yet, but JB's going to be taking over the YouTube page next year
That's awesome.
because Brody and I discussed this 2 weeks ago while he was very drunk at one of my gigs.
Oh, that's fantastic. I'm glad you brought that up.
So yeah, we're going to try and have a dedicated YouTube channel as opposed to piggybacking off mine. And have a dedicated one, and JB can run it so that I can just edit the videos and the audio and set up all this gear.
Yeah. You send me the video, I'll run the YouTube page. I got
Sweet.
No
Cool.
dramas with that. I mean, I already run our Facebook page and our Twitter. So,
You are the social
I
media
am pretty
manager.
much the social
He is
media
a
manager.
social media butterfly.
Yeah.
just trying to get the word out there. Just follow us and comment on some shit. For
Yeah.
fuck's sake.
Yeah.
Fight me, you bitches. Just want to get stuck
for
in.
ya. For ya.
Someone call us dumb so we can fight back, please. Some
Don't-
proper British
don't en-
person who
No,
said,
don't encourage Barry to do that.
Yeah.
He'll do that.
Barry's the only one that threw shade. Actually, no, sorry, that was the Parramatta's one, I think. Yeah, one guy like had a proper conversation with on YouTube, but I think that was my Parramatta's buddy, not this one.
Yeah, I think so.
I just want some like British guy to be like, you ignored the wing angle of the Williams that made it draggy. I just want like a. I just want like
was
a
that
David.
Someone pick us up on something,
Yeah.
hey?
I
Like,
just want like the David Hill type to be like, you forgot the front suspension at Silverstone was set too soft.
It's almost like your Jenny Gow impression there.
It was Jenny Gow. Jenny Gow could fight me. I'll tell you. It's just
And
like,
that was-
I just want somebody like you guys like forgot the technical side of Formula One. You just
You
focused
forgot that the rear wing needs to be at 43.3 degrees.
Yeah.
Yeah, it can't be perfectly straight. It's got to have a little bit of an angle.
You forgot that the strategy was a two-stop race. It's just like no one's tried to correct us on anything. So
Yeah.
as far as I know, we are the gospel, and you.
That's
You
because
are
no
not.
one has sent these videos to Aldas.
so we can have a YouTube celebrity boxing match between you and Aldas. We have to start training you up,
Phil
Phil.
versus
Mate.
Aldas on the undercard
Yeah.
of the Jake Paul fight.
Yeah.
My mate Jake will train me up in Muay Thai, mate.
Here we go.
He's
That's what we want.
You
gone.
listening, Aldas? You're fucked. You big dosser. You big dosser.
Your
you're
bottle
fucked.
is kegged.
Your bottle is
Gagged. You dickhead.
You big dosser.
Right,
Yeah.
so our predictions for next year. Oh, hang on. Did you have
Yeah,
some?
just one. I'll have my quick soppy moment as well and get another cheers out of you boys. What a year it's been, and again, it's been a joy of my life over the last year to spend this podcast with you two. I want to give a quick thanks to my beautiful partner Crystal for allowing me the time to do this podcast. We've got a little one at home, and it's can be quite hard if you're a parent out there. You understand it's quite time consuming on top of work and everything else in life. But she allows me to have this time, and I enjoy this time. This is like my getaway, my recharge. I get to enjoy my passions with you two guys, my friends, as you said, Phil, my family. And yeah, it's been a joy doing this podcast, and looking forward to next year and continuing and getting bigger and better. And yeah, cheers to that, eh?
Cheers, cheers, cheers. Katink.
Tink. Right. I suppose I should say a big hello to my girlfriend, Carol.
Hi,
too.
Carol.
She does listen because she reckons it helps her go to sleep at night.
Thank you to everyone who's used it as insomnia-inducing goodness.
Particularly hearing the soothing tones of her partner, Phil Lamington's voice. She said it soothes her and makes her feel happy.
I just got told my voice puts people to sleep. I told that by two separate people. And your voice is just like, puts me to sleep.
My voice probably annoys everyone, so because it annoys me.
Like, just stop talking.
I listen to myself. I'm like, God, I hate it.
You and me both.
Yeah,
You and me both. But it's alright, we're here. That's what we're doing.
that's it.
Okay, so now we're going to do some quick little predictions. My main prediction is that I think it will be mainly Mercedes versus Red Bull for the title next year. I think Ferrari's going to drop down to third. I think that Haas is going to hit rock bottom, and that Williams will finally beat someone. And I think McLaren's going to bounce back. I think they're going to be fighting. They're going to get fourth. I know it's not the highest honour of all, but I think McLaren's going to bounce back stronger next year.
I don't envy Oscar Piastri next year, just for the pressure he's going to be under.
I think he's going to surprise everyone.
I think Max Verstappen will win the championship next year. He'll go 3 consecutive titles, but it won't be a blowout. I think Red Bull's actually going to plateau next year. Red Bull will hit its performance ceiling, and the rest of the crowd, namely Mercedes and Ferrari, will catch them. And maybe, not Alpine. It'll be Ferrari, Mercedes, and Red Bull fighting for the title. I think Max Verstappen's going to take his 3rd consecutive championship, but it won't be over with 4 races to go. I think it's going to be a lot closer.
I think I agree with you. I think Max Verstappen will 3-time winner next year, but I think it will be a lot closer. I think it will be Mercedes, Red Bull. I think Ferrari will drop to 3rd. But I think if anyone, I think the person that will be competing Max for the title next year will be George Russell. He's my pick to push Max.
It would be
next
good
year.
to see, George, Max, and Charles Leclerc, but as we said, Charles Leclerc's mentally fragile.
Just with what Mercedes showed this year and towards the end of the year, if
They
they
got it
continue
right.
that, if they get it right next year from the get-go, I think George has got the maturity and the drive in him to put the points together to push Max, you know?
The Mercedes is almost right now.
Mm.
So all they have to do is get rid of the design, the fundamental concepts that are wrong. Man, they're going to be a rocket next year. Red Bull doesn't have to change much. Ferrari's not far off. They just need more consistency. Mercedes, they'll be there. Red Bull, obviously, will be at the peak, but they will plateau, giving Ferrari and Mercedes a chance to catch them. I think McLaren will be better, but Oscar Piastri is going to be under a lot of pressure.
I think he's going to surprise everyone. I think he's going to be on par with Lando Norris, if not beat Lando Norris.
The best thing for the team is to be on par with Lando Norris or beat him. Yeah.
I think the one driver who's going to be under the most amount of pressure is Sergio Perez.
Yeah.
Yep.
With Daniel Ricciardo sitting in the reserve driver seat, I
Yep.
think he's on the hot seat now.
Yeah,
I agree.
If he's not second in the championship, questions are
they
going to be
replace him.
raised about whether he's going to stay in the team or not.
Yeah, it's massive. There's a lot of people in the hot seat next year.
You know, people like whoever's the new team principal at Ferrari, they're going to be in the hot seat.
I think Guan Yu Zhou is going to be in the hot seat.
I think
I think
if Lewis Hamilton is not winning again, because this year he went without a
it
win,
was the first time this year he hasn't won a race.
if he's not winning next year, people are going to question whether he should still be in F1 and whether he should still have a new contract.
Yeah, well, hey, look, if Lando Norris has got his papers for a new team, we'll see. Time will tell. I think next year's going to be closer and more interesting. There's going to be more innovation. The cars are going to be slightly faster. No tyre warmers, DRS after one lap. They're not official rules yet, but I think they're coming in. Just keen for another season.
I think AlphaTauri is going to be a lot better next year. I think De Vries is going to come in and I think De Vries and Tsunoda next year I think are going to be as good as they were in 21.
I think Alpine is going to be the team that drops the most.
Yes.
Because I think
they're going to implode a bit.
I think Ocon and Gasly are going to crash into each other a lot.
I think Haas will be 8th again. I think they'll achieve exactly the same thing they did this year, just minus the crashes that Mick Schumacher had. I don't think they'll go further. I think they'll just bring the cars home safely and collect the same amount of points they did this year.
They won't. Haas overachieved this year.
Yeah, you reckon?
Haas overachieved this year because they had a year's worth of development that they could deploy at the start.
True.
Now that advantage is gone, they're fucked. All that shit that Magnussen did at the start of this year, he will not replicate it next year. The Haas is fucked.
So you reckon they'll fit
The
their
Haas is going
wooden
back to the
spooners?
bottom, dude.
Yeah, righto.
Assuming Williams can pull their finger out, Haas is going back to the bottom because their entire advantage, much like Ferrari's advantage at the start of this year, wiped.
Yeah.
It's all back to square one.
Yeah, I think Logan Sargent will be the key factor for Williams.
He'll be make or break.
I reckon he'll struggle
Yeah.
to begin with, and then he'll warm into it.
I think he will be one of those drivers who I see him as a Charles Leclerc type. Over one lap or one race, he'll be really impressive, and then he will bottle simple things and put it in the wall, and I just don't think he'll have the consistency to keep pushing the team forward. However, I think Albon will be even better next year, and if they put a decent car under him, I think Albon will be putting his hand up for a higher seat again, outside of
Absolutely.
Williams next year.
We will see. I'm keen for it.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
looking forward to it.
Should be a interesting season, and I think it's 23 races next year.
Yep, and extra sprint races too. 6 sprint races.
And F2 and F3 coming to Australia.
Yes,
That's it.
yes.
Yeah, we really should have got down there. Can't
Yeah,
do
but-
it now.
No,
Yeah, well, I think Knotfest is around that time.
Yeah, that's exactly why we can't do
we
it.
we should plan in 24
Okay.
Melbourne.
Well, I don't know, because Metallica might be coming there, bringing their world tour to Australia.
Yeah, but if it's not around the same time,
Yeah,
we'll see.
we'll see.
We need to go to a race together.
We do.
Got to lock it in
We
somewhere.
have to do. We have to.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us this year on this incredible journey that was the 2022 season.
Yeah.
We we look forward to seeing you next year. We'll probably kick off the year with a couple of retro races, just so
Yep.
we can get back into the groove.
Yeah, I think next year a couple retro races to start the year. We'll have a good break, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely.
Enjoy Christmas.
Retro
and then-
race. I mean, testing's not till February, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll get a couple in January of retros, and then
Yeah.
start the pre-season stuff and get firing back off for another good year of Formula One.
That's it.
Yeah.
I think
The longest one ever.
next year we want to bring some different things to the table, some different segments. So stay tuned to see what differences we come up with and
Yeah.
make the podcast more interesting for you guys.
Yeah.
So yeah, stay
Sounds
tuned
good.
for a big year next year.
All right. Well, on behalf of everyone here, we want to wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and possibly a Happy Australia Day if we don't get one on before then. But thank you for tuning in this year. And from all of us here at the F1 Chat, it is goodbye.